Okay.
My pan's being temperamental today.
Okay, we are with, whenever you're ready, Gordy.
All right.
Now we got our technical issues settled.
We just have one item on your consent agenda. Every year we have to, for WashDOT and the federal government to keep our Title VI requirement, meet that. We submit an updated report to tell how we've reached out or met the requirements every year. And so that's on your agenda for signature. Moving along to the construction program, our stripers are done now till we get all done chip sealing and they come back in the fall or end of summer. Old Mountain Road, let's see, contractor still building subgrade and working on culverts, and DNR's up their fire level to 3, which makes everybody working off the road surface have to stop work at 1 o'clock. So that's what they're doing. We can still work in the road prism. So our chip seal work for now won't be affected, but they're talking probably maybe by the end of the month going to 4, a level 4, which is kind of shuts everything down. So
Level 4 will shut down working on the actual roadway itself.
Yes.
yeah, it's really restrictive. So and they're thinking that they're heading that direction. So
By the end of this month.
the end
Yeah,
of July.
maybe so.
And that's
Yeah.
countywide, so that would affect our Roosevelt project and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often have they done that in this county?
Usually we get waivers.
Yeah, but they're not
They're
giving.
not given waivers. We ask every year, and this
So
year
we
they
go to
said
4
no,
every year, and they usually give you a waiver, and this year they're like, yeah, no.
no waivers
No waivers.
for anybody.
Is that a new development that's gonna happen
This
yearly
year.
or just for this year?
So far, just this year.
It'd be hard to get any road work done at all if you can't do it in the summer.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be.
used to not be, road work used to be exempt. It was centered around logging and that kind of thing. It was
Right.
never involved road work for years. When I was in that business, we never, until just recently.
Interesting. That's gonna be messy.
Yeah, because I wonder if they can cite have there been incidents that, arose from road work that were not.
Well, you're using the same equipment that you used to fight fires with. So you have a water truck, you have cats, right?
Yes, you're there.
You're there.
Take care of things.
And it'd be one thing if you were clearing and grubbing, but you're working on dirt by this time in the
Right.
game plan.
Right.
So I don't know why, but it is.
Weird.
We didn't turn your camera on. We needed a DNA scan, so.
Well, it looks like you threw it on the ground.
No, we had some technical issues.
We?
Yeah.
We?
Yes. We're having
All
some
right,
audio
we
issues.
had some audio issues.
We collectively had some audio issues. I think that was actually Ibby.
She broke the door and then broke the
Yeah,
computer.
broke the computer, so.
Walking straight through it.
It was the wind that did it, yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
sir, go ahead.
That's all right. Roosevelt drainage repair is done, and we're rebidding the paving project, and there are some of the same players interested, so that's good.
That's good.
Nothing new on any of the other projects. The design, Ridley Courtney's we're waiting till the fall. Maintenance side, so far, we're still grading roads and we're repairing some of the base and portions of Cedar Valley Road. Grading and prepping on the west side for chip seals, which will start next week. So the goal is to get through all of that before things change with DNR at the end of the month, and that shouldn't be a problem. The county services building, the new things that are going on this week. Tomorrow we'll shut down Court Street and it'll be closed for about 3 weeks. while they rebuild and put new sidewalks and curb and gutter and the rest of the drainage work there. And we did successfully set the generators and the chiller last week, so that was nice to get that equipment in there. And we've gone around and talked to all the business owners on Main Street, except for the state and the tribe. Because we have to, everybody's trash cans have to move, and just kind of letting them know the alley's gonna be under construction here in a few weeks as well.
Is that us ripping up the alley or is that the city ripping up the alley?
That's us. We're repairing it so it actually drains away from our new
Is the
building.
city replacing the water sewage line back there or are they?
They made some repairs, and they say that that's adequate. So,
Okay.
yeah, they were gonna replace the line, and then when they got bids that were high, they came back in and did some work and made a determination that that was enough. So,
Interesting.
so we'll fix the drainage, that's problems that are back there, and move forward. Let's see, courthouse entries. So they poured the upper landing on Friday and kept it wet cure all weekend covered. And so they're gonna pour the lower half this week, as well as the ramp. And so they're moving forward because 90 degrees is cooler than 110. And they'll just have to wet cure things. And so then next week they'll finish up with the sidewalk over here on the south side. And then we get railing for the east side on the 19th. And then we'll open this entrance up again, and that'll let us close that south entrance and redo that. So it's kind of
Just keep moving the pieces.
moving the pieces around, yeah, but it's moving forward.
And the front we're replacing because it had cracks. Why are we redoing the side?
South side was falling apart as well on the surface, as well as the heat pads were gone.
Yeah.
So, and then that, when we put the salt on it, then that just deteriorates things faster in the winter. So this should keep us from having to use salt and keep things open. Because we have had people slip and fall, I know out front here. So on the steps, it's just challenging. Let's see, fairgrounds. So we're working with the fair board, setting up a meeting, hopefully next week, to try and move things along, see what they need from us to have fair this year. So it's going to be different, I know, but there will be a fair. So that's good. Nothing new on the radio sites, I'm sure. We talked about the DNR fire restrictions that may shut everything down by the end of the month. We'll see. River Mile 1, the park there, we are grading it this week. And then the other thing that we've kind of tried to piggyback on the prosecutor's shredding company, but after about 2 months of trying to add ourselves and get more bins and not getting anywhere, we just went with a different company, and they ended up being there cheaper. And so we're going to order one extra bin. I know that was one of the requests from people in the courthouse. So we're adding one that'll be down in the basement. We're just one bin to start with, and we'll see how that goes. So they're $55 for a bin to dump it once a month.
So are the bins, I haven't seen any of the bins, so I'm curious, are the bins secure?
Yeah, so they have a
So when
lock-in lid.
So when they go,
Yeah,
okay.
so you dump in the top, it's a 65-gallon bin, and then they come and
Take it out.
take it out and shred it. Yeah,
When this gets in, you're gonna notify all the departments that it's actually there.
yes. Yeah, we'll wait till we actually get it.
Right. Once it's
Yeah.
in, then we'll, yeah.
Yeah, and we may need more than one. I don't know. We'll see. And that's about it for new stuff, unless you got something else.
No.
Thought about vacation.
Talk about.
You're getting
Faster.
10 minutes.
Holiday weekend, I didn't have all Monday to think about this. I was on vacation still.
The Houston Ranch or whatever it became, when you guys authorized that, did you require water for when they're building that road? I got a complaint of some dust.
Some ranch.
So that's
What's
out
that?
there at the old golf course,
Your buddies
Oh.
out there.
Guy Skills project. I've noticed they started construction on that road going in there, and one of the neighbors, at least one of the neighbors was complaining about the dust being pretty massive.
Yeah,
And so I didn't know if we put in that requirement that they have to have dust mitigation and water in it.
I don't know. I don't know where the project's at or.
It's been a
Although
while.
isn't that a general?
We usually make that check.
That's a
They have to
general
follow
all
DNR.
areas. They have to.
Would you be willing to reach out to him?
We can do
See
that.
what their
Yeah,
plan is?
yeah, we'll take care of it.
If
Yeah.
you need his number, I can give it to you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Buses and catalytic converters. Do we have any plans to put up our own cameras in that vicinity? So, because I think this is going to be an ongoing issue that I'd like to, I don't know,
Yeah,
or some signage to tell people they are on candid camera, or at least something.
Yeah, we've struggled with this off and on in our vehicles, building department vehicles over the years. And so we put up some cameras, we've added more lights. We actually had somebody vandalize or steal some stuff out of one of our trucks probably 4 months ago.
Yeah, we got them on camera.
We got them on camera and, but it, you know, that
They didn't know who it
the
was.
police didn't recognize them, so, you know, there's nothing more they could do. They actually parked out in front where we didn't have a camera. And so we've, yeah,
We need more.
yeah,
License plates are cool.
yeah, it would be helpful. So we can put more cameras up, or a camera or two around the building. You know, it might be helpful, but it hasn't been for us so
No.
far. And, you know, because gas, they used to steal gas from us. They, you know, just cut the hose
Mhm.
for your gas and go in from underneath and steal gas out of the tank. The damage to the vehicle was worse than having to, you know, pay for new fuel.
Yeah.
So that has stopped, but now, you know, it's just something new.
Yeah.
So
So you're thinking even throwing up cameras wouldn't
it
necessarily
doesn't
help?
seem to deter them because we
No.
had cameras. The guy walked by our cameras.
Yeah.
You know, he had his hoodie on and so you really couldn't see him. And our cameras are visible. They're not hidden.
No.
We have signage there because they're, I don't know that they're, you know, they're half tweaking, they ain't looking for cameras, but they might see a sign.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
That's a cheap alternative to give it a try.
Yeah. Good way
I
to
would be
keep
interested in
cameras.
doing that route first.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would agree. I think this is gonna continue. I mean, it's happening everywhere.
Those bus cat converters are so big.
Yeah, they had,
But
McKed had their, so the ones in the Dalles, they
Got those too.
all,
They're going
the
after the
whole
bus.
fleet.
Yeah.
They just crawled underneath and sawzalled them off and.
If the buses are a big deal, you know, they can park the buses up at the shop.
Yeah. And then they're
They're
at the lot.
secure there. We haven't had any issues up there.
Well,
The
I
sheriff's
think-
impound yard has.
I think as we go along, it might be a good idea to have them, when they go in for an oil change, have a plate welded on. It's actually a deterrent. But for now, yeah,
Yeah, short term, it's safe up there. People can just drive their personal vehicle up there, swap. That's what we do. We move a
Yeah.
lot of our rigs up there because of the vandalism and theft that we were having. So,
Not a bad idea.
I was gonna say that might be something we have to make a decision on there, but I think that
Yeah.
might be the answer. Because otherwise the buses ain't gonna run because they can't even get cat converters right now. They're just backwarded on those things.
We'll find the guy and offer to buy him back.
Yeah, and so there's a lot on the aftermarket.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
Well, in most things past the law, you can't recycle a cat converter unless you have whatever the title. But they're obviously still finding a way, throw them in shipping containers, haul them up. Anyway, that was one issue. Second issue, bottled water refill stations that we talked about or heard about in the meeting up at the fairgrounds. Have we made any movement or thoughts of making movement on installing a bottled water refill station here in the courthouse? Kind of asking you guys if you want to give him direction for that or not.
Well, we haven't made any. I mean, I finally started using the bottled water station in the HR department.
I'm pretty sure the whole courthouse starts going in there. We might have some problems.
Technically, it's a good thing because then you're seeing HR, you're more apt to have a conversation with your HR department. There's nothing wrong.
I was just
I'm
talking
fine either.
like-
I'm fine. The water's fine to me, so I don't care, but I know some people, they don't, but.
One thing though, I believe HR, they.
It's
employees
are
pay
paying
it.
for that, right?
Yeah.
So we don't.
Yeah, they're footing the bill.
That one
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
isn't. The rest of them are, but that one isn't.
There's a captain there.
There's a how to put money or to use to get water.
Oh.
No, I mean, I know that
No,
was
I
a
was
request.
talking, I wasn't talking actual water coming in off a truck. I was talking a drinking fountain station like he's gonna have out here, that instead of just a drinking fountain.
Oh, you can have a
It's
cup
plugged into the
filler.
wall.
Yeah.
Considering everybody's using these because they taste better than the water coming out of that thing, I don't think it would be a wise improvement unless the water's gonna taste worth drinking. That's why they have all these bottled water.
Right. Well, and that was the other issue, is whether we could put filters on it or something to get rid of that taste. But if that, I don't know, I'm just following up on that one because it doesn't seem like we've done anything on that. I'm kind of curious if we were going to or not.
So I guess maybe that brings up another subject. So we talked about, there's really no community place for like break room or meeting room. So one of the things that we've thought is when we do the remodel, so you'll vacate this space and juvenile will come over here. HR will vacate their space, which leaves a pretty good sized space
Yeah.
open. So could that be a meeting room slash
break room.
break room where we could have a sink and some of those things, and we have to run new water line, and we basically pulled in, it was a couple of years ago, a new water line into the building, so the plumbing in the building is older, but we
New
could
one.
The
connect.
supply
Yeah.
coming
Is
in is
new.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then when we do this, we'll probably put a sink in this space as well for the people that are in this office. Yeah, this office.
So if you put a break room over there, you're saying the water supply would come off the new line. and
It would
not
have to be,
off of-
yeah, it'd have to all be new plumbing because we don't have plumbing there, so.
Right.
And the water line comes in right almost below there.
So you wouldn't be getting the taste of the old pipes right there.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd all be new.
Well,
So-
when it occurs, you could put your little bar water filling like you have over
Yeah.
here in.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That work for you?
Totally works for me.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
I don't know if, although I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't have had any contact with Mr. Haney on Courtney Road. So I had an extensive conversation with him yesterday and the day before and the day before. About he is, and I know initially, because the PUD, and he has been working with the PUD about running new power line up in our road project. They actually don't want to do that now, that they want to do it because it's further around. They're trying to connect and they're going to run. So he had sent me some stuff, and I had noticed that he was using the old alignment of the road. So they do want to run. They want to run north across along the property line of his stuff, and then reconnect with the new road. But the alignment he was using is the existing alignment, which I know that road moves significantly.
Yeah.
And so he has submitted, because it would require a permit from the scenic area.
Yes.
And so he has submitted that, but I can tell immediately there's going to be a problem because he's not using the correct alignment of the road. So I did tell him, because I'm generally supportive of the project, because it's a way to connect so they can loop. So, because right now there's the power on Burdoing Mountain or Courtney Road, the lower part is not connected to the top. There's a gap in between, and the PUD wants
Dead
to.
end.
Yeah.
So they're dead end so that they can feed power either way, particularly in fire or bad weather. And this would all be underground because everything down below is underground. And so this would connect underground because they've had a lot of issues on the top because it's overhead. And then when we've had the ice storms and stuff, everybody loses power up there. And so it makes sense. Let's go ahead. And the PUD wants to do it. But I don't know it. And I'm not really sure. I'm going to have a conversation with the PUD first because they should really be the sponsor of the application.
Yeah.
It's going to work a lot better than Mr. Haney trying to do it. Because
Yeah.
again, based on I looked through his application, I have some experience with them, and they're understanding the requirements as we do on that project. It shouldn't be a big deal because if they're going to run in the new alignment, then that's already been checked for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And so there shouldn't be required any new information for them to make a determination. So I was just giving you a heads up as far as, because I'll probably at some point, since they would want to use our right of way on that new project, we're going to have to be involved in that. So that's one thing. The other, and I don't know if you guys remember, and this is a project, Lee's familiar with it. A gal named Dawn Yetta. We had this a couple of years ago. There was an issue with, and I had this idea that you folks were involved, that it's really not your gig, but we had an issue. She owns a lot out off the Glenwood Highway, that there was an issue with, she had bought it and there was supposed to be a septic system on it, according to the county records, because when it was permitted, they had 2 lots and they put it was in our system wrong. And so when they did their due diligence to buy the lot, the county records said, oh yeah, there's an on-site septic system that was permitted, and there was she bought it. Of course, there's no septic system there. And we had agreed a couple of years ago to at least, and so she was supposed to come back with some estimates to have it put in so she could file a claim. We never said but you can file a claim because in some respects it was our mistake, because the health department, the inspector, the one doing it, they should have known they weren't on the right lot, and yet they still it was put into the system on the wrong one. So she was supposed to come back, but it does so I think we agreed a couple of years ago that we would do the site evaluation and the stuff for free, and at least get them that information. Well, it needs a PD system on this lot. So she can't get an estimate, and I'm not asking us to do anything, but I don't know if we have, because the system has to be engineered, but you can't get an engineer to engineer it for free to get an estimate of what it's going to, so it's a chicken and egg thing. Right. And I don't know if you have any ideas about, because we require her to come up with two different estimates to submit with her claim, right, which I've been very clear about. You can file a claim. That does not mean we're going to admit any kind of culpability and that we're going to pay for anything. But you have the legal right to file a claim that you've been harmed, right, because of our mistake. But she can't submit anything without, because normally if it was a normal system, you could go to an installer and say, this is what it is, get 2 estimates for it, but she can't even do that because she has to have it engineered. Because the installers are like, I can't give you an estimate on something I don't know what I
What it
have to
is.
build.
Yeah.
And the engineers are like, well, yeah, we can design you a system, but you have to pay for it.
Is she
upfront."
living on the property?
No, she's not. She bought it. She would like to. Apparently she has some cabin or something she built on. That's when she discovered she didn't have a septic system. Because she wanted to get her permit and they said, yeah, you're good. And then, well, we're going to connect to the system. Well, where is it? And when they pulled the as-built, it was on a different lot.
Yeah.
So, so it's a mistake. So I don't know.
County that sold this piece of land?
No, we didn't have any, but it was in, right, and that's gonna be a question for whether we have any liability or not, because, but it was in our system wrong, and so when when it was sold, they kept this is what they pulled off, and the responses they got from the health, oh yeah, there's a septic system on it, it was approved for this, here's the as-built, and it was not on the right lot.
Right.
And so a person would reasonably,
Was the lot created after the septic system?
No. it was an old subdivision. It's out, I wasn't really familiar with it, but it's out past, I don't know if you were Ireland's. So it's after the
Yeah.
Glenwood where it goes off, it's a couple more miles up there. And then it's like an old subdivision, probably like in the 1970s. So there's like a bunch of, there's like 50 lots out there and a bunch of them are undeveloped. And apparently the former owner who died, to make it really helpful, owned 2 lots. And so he had permitted one on one and not the other one. And
So she doesn't have the money to pay for the engineer.
right. To get the number or to get the design to submit to people to get an estimate to file a claim that she doesn't know that we would pay anyway.
Yeah, the septic's probably gonna cost more than the lot's worth. But
It could. So,
Yeah, without a design, it's gonna be a range. You can get a range from an installer.
Yeah.
well, that might be something we could talk, because the claim actually gets filed with the prosecutor's office. And so maybe there's some discretion there of, because typically you need at least 2 estimates so that we know what's the number, but maybe in this case, it would be acceptable to get a
That's the best you
range
can do.
Yeah, you can get a range depending on what type of
a
system.
system it is.
Well, and you need the range for the engineering.
For the engineering too,
Yeah.
because it's, so I've been trying, because initially I was like, it's like, let me talk to, I know of some installers, maybe I can hook you up with something, but they all were like, well, yeah, we'd be happy to once we knew what we were.
Yeah, we had to build.
Yeah.
So it would be like, I wouldn't give you an estimate for a house it's like, well, it
From your-
could be this,
Could be
could be this,
Three,
it could be
you know?
3, I don't really know. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you a range, all right. So I don't know, if you had any thoughts on what maybe a range would be.
That's about all I can think of.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might go from there and the prosecutor, when we
Right.
evaluate it, that's,
Because it could be a non-issue if we determine that we don't feel like we have any liability.
Yeah.
then-
We talked to the prosecutor about it before.
Yes, because originally 2 years ago, because I had the discussion started about 2 months ago, and I was talking with him, and he said, "Wow, we have another one of those," and it was like, "Oh yeah, I remember thinking." And so, but it wasn't. It was the same one, and so his memory's better than mine apparently for liability stuff, and. Yeah, so that's probably where I should start to see what he would require as far as for filing a claim. But I think I don't know how much discretion we have, because we do have a kind of a written policy as far as if you're going to file a claim, this is the criteria as far as you submit 2 estimates, at least 2 estimates. And so, okay, that's.
Do all of those get, I guess I would say, ruled on by the prosecutor?
No, it'll be us.
Yeah, all that torque stuff comes up here?
We'll have to decide. I mean, I'm assuming you would,
Well, I guess
I don't know,
asking
actually. I know this
for-
specific
I
one
mean,
came to us before.
If somebody, jacks their car in a pothole, and files a claim against the county, where would that be?
I think that,
Did you-
Yeah, we evaluate them.
Yeah.
They submit them to David. They ask us, take a look at this, and we make a determination. Yeah. or
That
no.
wouldn't necessarily come here. Some would
No.
come here. that-
I think this would be, because it would be so discretionary, they would need some, because it's not clear cut as far as any liability, some liability, what's reasonable. 'Cause I think
Insurance company would probably be involved.
involved, because it's
They
probably gonna be
send that to
more
me and I
than,
forward it to the insurance company.
to see. So I know this, in the,
Insurance going up another percent next
yeah,
year.
yay, yeah. I mean, we
You
get
heard
some of
that,
it
right?
back.
We're going up like
Yeah, 17, yeah. I thought it was 20,
Well, then I can
21,
throw
but that
over
was the
this
year
note.
before. 17, that's almost insurance flat. They used to, when it was 10% or under, they're like, oh no, rates are flat. 10% is flat.
They're going down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, flat is 0,
Yes,
is what I think
exactly.
of as flat. So, okay, well, I will follow up with the prosecutor and maybe our risk manager, and we can see. I would like to get, that's what I told her. I will try to get her some answer, because this has been dragging on for a couple of years. So if it's no, maybe. Okay, that's,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
down at the airport, their tractor went down and it's over at Shepherd's and it's just starting to get repaired and it could be multiple weeks. Do we have a tractor we could loan them, maybe from the fairgrounds or something, so they could do some mowing around the runways? No.
Our smaller one.
It's not very good anymore, because we were looking at.
How about our mower, the one that we bought for mowing? Road mowing.
Yeah, so if we use that,
We have to charge.
We have to charge, yeah. So there's a rate, so we can give you the equipment rate for that, for mowing,
Okay.
but it's not a brush hog drag behind, we have a side mower.
Side, yeah.
Well, couldn't we hook their mower up to it? I mean, they just need,
A tractor.
they just
Yeah.
need the tractor.
Maybe, depends on how, I don't know how it's configured,
I don't either.
whether it has that kind of a hitch or not, I don't know. So,
Yeah,
We can
because that
look.
could be
Yeah,
a
we can
problem
look.
down there if this stuff grows along the airport.
we'll see what we got and we'll
Okay.
get back with you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
There's already a fire there over the weekend.
That took care of
So
the-
there's no grass left? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
it was small.
I was gonna say it was real small, because I didn't see it about 20 minutes ago.
Do a controlled burn of the grass.
No. There are no such thing as controlled burns this time of year.
No.
They're either uncontrolled or really uncontrolled. Okay. That's it.
All right,
Thank you.
I can't believe the Wisher fire didn't make it all the way to the top of the hill and take it all out. Those planes down there are being helpful.
They are. They have proven over and over and over again how we are really fortunate to have those
Down there.
stationed there.
And the helicopter.
And the helicopter.
And the sky crane.
Well, that was the weird thing. The helicopter was on sitting there at Lyle. I saw a video of it early, but I mean, I sat there probably 45 minutes. I mean, I could have detoured around, but I was kind of watching.
Watching what was
Never
going
saw a
on.
plane, never saw a helicopter in the 45 minutes I was there. And I'm like, huh, interesting. They wonder if they stopped flying because they saw a drone or.
No, I think they jumped it, then they didn't need it anymore.
It felt like, because I had heard they were super, I mean, that was what saved the trailer houses. The house at Lyle was the helicopter is what I heard.
I
Couple firefighters.
spoke with the fire chief this morning. I've got quotes. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. We're looking at the Lyle fire.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you can see where it's spotted
Yeah, quite a ways away.
quite a ways.
everybody, you held their breath. And that went out over the radio.
End up more of that lower field than I thought it did.
Mhm.
Good time not to have a boathouse.
Yeah.
Hey, is the boat ramp affected or just the houseboat area?
It's one.
West section of houseboat, they don't have the boat ramp itself
The
closed
west
down.
dock, yeah. Was what burned.
I might have to drive down there just to investigate that before next week.
All right, whenever you're ready, Jeff.
Okay. So first off on the consent agenda is the personnel authorization to advertise for a new emergency management program coordinator. Can talk about that now or get to the reason it's at the very end of my list here today, but if you have any questions, let me know. Moving on, the public safety radio system is functioning normally at this time. As always, have to qualify that. We have not had any significant issues since we last met in the performance and functionality. Maintenance, the annual facility site preventive maintenance is complete. I have not had time to review that report yet, other than my conversations as it was ongoing with the technician and his manager about the realities of the flat top site fence. It's not something they can do for us, but I asked them to document that thoroughly and send me a report on that so that I can attempt to follow up and try and get something done in the way of repairs this year before we get snowed out again, which unlike what it feels like outside right now is coming quickly. It's usually the first week of November or so that we can't do any more work up there. We'll see how that develops when I have time to get into that. The annual radio system preventive maintenance began last week. That is for the radio system equipment itself, not the facility side as the previous bullet. They're moving right along with that. And I'm still doing what research I can on the sustainability of funding for the entire radio system and dispatch systems and so on, as we've discussed. Let radio site lease agreements in progress. Still the Golgotha Butte site with Benton County. There was significant portions of their agreement were not.
It's weird.
They have sex.
Amy broke the door earlier and then it was working fine. And then apparently it just went again.
It did it again.
Of course, it doesn't do that.
I know, for the
Building
facility,
ground,
but
right?
yeah.
Just gotta let it in.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, yeah.
I think it might the courthouse.
Yeah, I heard it in jail.
There'll be officers up soon.
Yeah.
Check on a bomb threat.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, yeah. Forgot the Butte site. Yeah, there were significant errors in their agreement they wanted us to sign, and so I kicked that back to them, and they said, well, we don't know what we don't know, so you got to fill in all those pieces. And I said, okay, well, I'll get back to you. I'm a little busy, but as I mentioned before, the one thing in there is that the landowner now is demanding a percentage of all the subleases that Benton County has at that site. So our sublease payments to Benton County will be going up. Same thing we're seeing with our sites, and ownership wanting a percentage of the subleases. So I'll work on that and get it to you for signatures as soon as I can. The Juniper Points land lease agreement is completed. I don't know if anybody had any further questions about that. But I was happy with the way that ended up, and we'll figure out how to deal with that in 2 years' time and what that property looks like. Indian Hill site sublease with Hood River County is ongoing. They now have finished their installation of their new radio equipment and so on, and the contracted system engineer for us has received their data, so he's putting it into contract agreement.
Where is that one located over in Hood River? Yeah.
Indian Hill is just east of the town of Hood River. So if you're on 14 going into Bingen from the east, you look across the river and you can see the giant clear cut. It was on Indian property. They clear cut it several years ago. It's the very peak of that clear cut. Then wait, broadband sublease at Flat Top, since they are now providing commercial service to at least US Cellular across the street from us there, the access road. Then that goes from public system to, excuse me, a private system for the schools, broadband for now everybody. So I've been trying to work with them. Wave has been the new owner after they bought out from Sonnet. So that's all taken some time. Any questions about radio system?
Look like
The radio site up at the top, Acetus Pass,
Radio project.
radio project.
Got it, sorry. Right now, that's all in the hands of Public Works as it is still in negotiations for the purchase of that land.
Okay.
From Western Pacific, I believe it is.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, that's what I've been told is that they're actively trying to sell it now, so. But I think Jeff Hunter was able to secure that piece that we need and at least start the negotiations for the piece of land that we need for that site and the easement that we will need to get to that location. And if that's changed, I see some looks on your face.
No.
It's not been reported to me. The last I got a report.
Do you know who's interested in the rest of that up there?
The conservation district was supposed to be buying all of that. And then I was in a meeting with Hunter and the conservation district chairs. And if they pull that piece out of the purchase, then they have to go in and do an entire new reappraisal on the property. And they had a certain closing date.
Oh,
And so the idea is if we have to, the conservation district will purchase the whole thing and then they'll sell us the portion that we want, not the 20 acres, but just what we want.
that would be a big benefit.
Even better.
We don't.
And the conservation district, all of that is in just the piece on the east side or the whole?
I can't remember how many thousand acres they're buying, but quite a bit up there.
I did
But
not
I
know.
haven't heard an update since our meeting.
That would be wonderful.
That's why I said we can wait a little while and not buy it from those guys if they're gonna lose 2,000 acres or whatever if we move forward with our purchase.
Good to know.
Just remember you're gonna sell some property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we will remember.
Well, let me know if those
I'll
conversations.
loop you in and
Yeah, because
on any update.
yes, we are friends with the conservation district, worked together in the past. Yeah, hazard mitigation plan. Also on the radio project, did upgrade the Klickitat site, and moved all that equipment into a new appropriate radio equipment room on June 9th. That cutover took place, went well. There was only a couple minor glitches, which we had very quickly adapted and improvised to. So there was no missed 911 call, dispatches of any kind to that service area. There are a couple of punch list items still being worked on, remote starts, systems for generators and things of that nature. That didn't get completed originally, but I'm glad to have that mostly done and completed. Under 911, call taking and public safety radio dispatching. Apologize. No call volume report again. This update. The staffing, we have one casual communications officer in training that agreed to move into the full-time position that we had open. We had that position open for 6 weeks and got 4 applications, only 2 of which were viable applicants. That's disconcerting, to say the least.
in training until August, is that a on-site training?
That's
Or are
correct.
they running off to some school?
No, she's in the final stages of her training.
But all that training is here. It's not, they don't have to go somewhere for that.
That's correct. Yes, we do almost all of our training on site. There's some that well, in COVID, they did it remotely, but there are some that is provided by other people, other agencies. And yes, like she is in her last month and a half now. And so that's on the job. She's in there with a trainer watching over. And actually last week, since we're on that subject, while in training, she took a 911 call for a domestic violence dispute that was significant and turned into a significant incident for us and law enforcement. We actually had a critical incident debriefing. The male half was standing over the wife and 10-year-old boy with the firearm and threatening them and cocking it and uncocking it. She, as the call taker for that, she performed very well, under supervision, of course, but she did a great job, and we're very happy with her performance, as well as everybody else. That particular moment in time, because she was there training, we had two other fully qualified comms officers in place, and our lead was on duty. There was 4 comms officers that split the duties, dealt with that incident as well as the ongoing regular call volume. And then I stepped in to help where I could in coordination, because that was an extended incident and call for us. But it all worked out well. The boy was rescued by law enforcement, and the mother finally came out, and we're happy about that. Have just been given notice late last week. Another one of our full-time communications officers has chosen to take employment elsewhere. Not gonna rib anybody, but the sheriff stole him from me. No, she is going to be our new range and timber deputy. So she's stepping down as a full-time communications officer, but has agreed to fill our second open, which is our second casual position. And it remains to be seen how much she'll be able to actually fill in, but I have high hopes. Typically, when somebody leaves for other employment, the ones that do agree to stay on as a casual, because that is the best situation for us, somebody that's fully trained. There's only been one other person in the 6.5 years I've been here that's done like 2 shifts, and that's it. Once they move on, they just move on, and they don't come back for part-time work.
And you're just essentially using them to fill in for sick days and vacation stuff.
Trainings, any time that we have, shifts that need to be filled. For
How long have they been with us?
This casual, or excuse me, this comms officer. Boy, it's been 5 years. I believe I hired her in my first year. It would have been the fall of 2015, I think. Yeah, so that 3 to 5 year lifespan of a communications officer is coming into play. But I'm very happy that she's chosen to move into the casual position. But that, and I haven't had a chance since it came in so late last week to talk to Casey about it. I know she usually gets the verbal approval to post that full-time position, but I don't think there's any rules that say I can't ask and you can't give it to me instead of her. She's always so good about helping out with all that. But so I'll ask if I have your verbal approval to the post.
As long as we're not stepping on anybody's toes, you'll yes.
Oh, I'll make sure that I don't get in Casey's way.
She's not running across.
She's not
the
running
hallway.
across the hall.
Wait for the door to slam again.
Yeah.
No, no. Okay, well, as long as HR is good with it, then I'll move forward with that. Because with our training lag, if we
Yeah,
do get somebody without any experience or training, then it's a 5 to 6 month process. And as you know, we'll be losing another to retirement at the end of December. So January 1, we'll have another open position. So we're looking at our budget capabilities as when we can hire and have some overlap so that we're not down 1 or 2 comms officers any longer than necessary. But I have to have the budget to be able to pay those people in training. And that's a challenge now that both of my casual positions are full, which we've been using them. Hire them as a casual, get them into training like this last one. And then when the full-time position comes open, they move into that from the casual, either while they're still in training or after they've completed training. Now we've got to figure out how we can get somebody in training and not lose a full 5 or 6 months from the time one person leaves. For being able to fit that into the budgets when you're paying people. We did have an intern start on July 1st, which is good. I know I think I was in here last week and it came up in casual conversation, but yes, we did decide to have an intern. It was brought to my attention by the lead that would be a good idea to have work that needs to be done, paperwork in dispatch itself. Not under my administrative assistant, which is overloaded as I am. So the lead and other comms officers are overseeing the work she's doing, and it's going well so far.
so you're having this one do different stuff than you've had past ones do?
That's correct. Yes, working specifically in 911 dispatch. Yeah, on the legal paperwork, updating contact binders, public education, program activities, and so on. I think that's, got a little bit more here about on the training and operations side. The security camera repair project was completed, which was just the repair side of getting the 2 cameras that failed on us back up in operation. There is still phase 1, 2, 3 of upgrading the existing cameras and that need to be, according to IT, since they took over that system from Public Works, as well as supplementing it because we have many gaps, coverage, access points that can't be monitored. And I know that was on the federal purchase list ideas that I gave you. Also under 911 operations, the state grant for 911 was approved by the state. It should be going through the PA's office now and coming to you next week or the week after for signatures. It was a surprise to me. It is $5,500 approximately less than last grant cycle. And there are 2 different sides of that grant. So we'll be figuring out how to deal with that budget shortfall in the grant itself and see how much of the 911 phone excise tax there might be to pick up the slack for that. But that was not something that
What percentage of the grant is that a reduction?
small. It's $460,000 grant, but $5,500 isn't a small thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm counting the dollars. Yeah. So gonna be watching that. And we are continuing to coordinate with that state grant 911 coordinator. She's very good to work with. So Randy and I are leaning on her hard to make sure that we get all this right without the chief of ops position being staffed. Mass casualty incident plan, which I talked to you about last time, and I just said I'm going to have to totally ignore that. The update committee had a meeting last month, and based on the emails, I could not ignore it because they were going to finalize it. And there was nobody else from Klickitat County participating in that plan update. I did not want to see anything get put in there and accepted that would harm our dispatch and responders. And it's something we couldn't actually, commit to physically do when the plan was activated. So I did participate, and I think worked out with our partners, dispatch plan, responders, communications plan, all those kind of things, the hospitals. So I think we're on track to have a good plan that works for the whole region on both sides of the river. We'll see if the fire chiefs weigh in when they see that draft. But I was happy that we came to some understandings. The fire district use agreements, renewals are all in process, and we've signed a number of them already. There are a few fire districts that have not responded yet, and we're still following up on those. Technically, those use agreements expired at midnight on June 30th. However, as you know, we're not going to stop providing them a service.
Right.
Take 911 calls for their districts, and we're not going to, put them on hold and forward them to the office that's not manned or any of that. But
We're sorry, your phone call cannot
Good.
be that would be,
I know. So we'll be continuing to follow up as those fire chiefs, they're all volunteers and their staff. So we're trying to make accommodations, but in large, we've got those all either done or in process. Any questions about 911 dispatch?
Questions? We're good.
Emergency management program, COVID, status quo mostly. We are continuing to process resource requests and distribute PPE. We don't want to end up with any more of it than, in our inventory than we can deal with. So we've got the hospitals and other agencies, fire districts, as well as EMS district, requesting what they need for long-term supplies, and keeping in mind that at some point we may need more for us to be able to distribute. So we're going to continue to keep an inventory of our own, as well as those N95 masks, because all that was donated by the state basically. And they're now telling us use them in however way you see fit. The whole tiered distribution is all gone away. They can also be used for air quality issues. So wildfire smoke, we get that. Public health and myself in the past years, 2015 and 17 mostly, we distributed those N95 masks. So now we've got enough to last them a good long while for that purpose. I am considering, actually, I guess I better back up. I don't know who's watching, but you can see the numbers there. We're at 976 total cases for the county, 13 currently active as of this morning. And there's 11, actually not of this morning. I take that back. That was Thursday since that website's been updated. And 11 deaths, which is an increase of 1 since I was here last. So next bullet, I am doing our forward planning for demobilizing the remaining EOC staff and returning the EOC to level 1, which is its normal monitoring. That's just me paying attention to what's going on in the county. And looking at recommendations to rescind the COVID-19 emergency declaration for the county in all 3 cities. I haven't talked to the mayors about this
Yeah, I was
yet.
going to ask, have you had any
I have not.
interactions with the mayors yet?
I talked to the public health director, because there are ramifications, right? If you don't have emergency declaration in place, if you don't have the EOC activated, then you're not eligible for certain grants and reimbursements and so on and so forth. So I talked to public health. Erin Quinn told me last week that she saw no issue with me demobilizing the EOC and rescinding the emergency declarations. I also asked Jen Finance that same question, and she is still looking into it. Like I said, I don't want any of my recommendations or your actions on my recommendations to come back and bite us, so that we would lose the ability to take advantage of any funding in the future.
So how does that work if we've got a grant that we've used part of it, but not the rest of it? If we demobilize, this gets sent back? Or
Well, yeah, it's a reimbursement situation, so we just don't get to claim
we
anything
wouldn't be able to
Beyond-
get anything beyond that day?
day, yeah, once you deactivate or rescind your notice, then from
Any
that date
expenditures on, you
can-
could back
Yes.
if it was a approved activity, you could,
you can
up
still
to
get-
that, you could claim it up to that
If the
date.
money was
History.
spent before that day.
You know, I'll qualify by saying historically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
although
who knows
FEMA's
now?
changed all the
Who
rules,
knows, they've changed all.
the public assistance, and I'm sure Jen and Sylvia and that approach, that,
Yeah.
It's
always
What
changing
grants are
all
out
the
there.
time.
yes, but yes, historically speaking, you can still claim reimbursements for the time that you were under those conditions. But once you either deactivate or rescind your notifications, then anything after that date, you're not eligible for reimbursement. So I want to make sure I do that before I take the next step. But from my perspective, an emergency management operational perspective, I believe that we're at the place now to do both of those things. So,
That's a good thing.
you follow? Yes, yes. So wildfire reports, and as I was coming up here, I heard you talking about the Wishram fire. Actually, it's called the Hell's Gate fire officially. There's a Hell's Gate Canyon there, and the firefighters like to be creative in their naming. So yeah, it was like Hell's Gate. No, that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Wishram fire. No, it's Hell's Gate fire.
Okay.
That fire I didn't include.
That's
in
a
my
place name, not a descriptor.
Yeah, well, it was named that reason, or that way for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's not on the list because it didn't threaten any structures. We didn't do any evacuation notices. I was actually in a meeting with the undersheriff and the chief jail deputy at the time that was going on, talking specifically about wildfire evacuations in that process, because they are not familiar at all with that. And neither one of them had participated in that in the future or in the past. And the sheriff's office is the only one that can order evacuation notices. And then emergency management puts those notices to the public out for them. And so we had those discussions, and we had trigger points in place that if it crested the hill and continued on, there were homes in the Centerville district that were going to be immediately threatened. But it didn't come to that point. As you noticed, the air resources out of the Dallas-Fort Airport were very effective. And the new Stacker Butte radio site camera that was installed, and I have now got access to it. Should have had that in my report. It's actually working after almost a year of being installed. I got access to it last month, and it was great because we could watch that fire as it come up over the ridge and watch the air bosses drop on it, and it immediately stopped forward progression after about the third dump. And then we watched them fly away and not come back, and we rotated the camera over, and lo and behold, the east side of the Dalles was on fire, and the giant flew over there.
Yeah, they were busy.
So yeah, it was a busy afternoon. But that's why that's not included. Usually I only included significant wildfires that threaten structures or infrastructure and produce evacuation notices, one or the other. As you'll note, the Lyle fire wasn't large in size, but it did threaten the entire town of Lyle. And they're calling that the Columbia Fire. It was officially 5.5 acres. Half of that was the field north of the community center, the old high school site, that field there. The rest of it was on the west end of town, south of Highway 14. And if I already said it, I'm going to say it again, there were no structures lost. The cause is still under investigation, and the fire chief, I talked to this morning, let him get some sleep. He said, quote, if not for the excellent mutual aid from local responders, the DNR and the aircraft, etc., we would have lost Lyle, or a good portion of it. We were 3 minutes from losing the town of Lyle. I appreciate all of the great work by the DM staff and dispatch, detail of their call comments, and the support from emergency management in evacuations, potential state mode, and FMAG coordination, because all that happened really fast. So I'm going to pass those words of encouragement on to my team, but that was a point in time for myself, having heard the page go off and monitoring all the traffic, and then speaking to the deputies on scene to talk about evacs. We had precious little time to send an evac notification. We did put an evac level 3, go now, to the whole town of Lyle. And I agree with the fire chief. If it hadn't been for all those folks coming immediately, and I got the distinct impression that a lot of folks, especially given the conditions, but also the 4th of July weekend holiday, were not just listening to their pagers for their district, they were scanning all page traffic. And the people that were requested for mutual aid were already en route before the page went out.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were sitting in their truck at the White Salmon 4th of July parade, so.
That was some of it, yes. District 3, White Salmon, Bingen, they were in the parade. Yeah. And
So
then,
firefighters were already in the truck, ready to roll.
Yeah.
That saved 10 minutes right there.
yes, and then the DNR, they've always been good last several years, especially since 2015. They're monitoring our frequency, and they hear it and they go before they can even get, because we have to call their dispatch, and that whole situation takes time. And then the aircraft out of Lyle, or Dallasport again, dumping water. So
That was just one helicopter, right?
I believe so. That's what I heard.
Just a regular bucket helicopter.
Yeah, the DNR one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so what flashed through my mind was Paradise, California, because we know that's potential. Lyle's not one that made the state's list, but there are 4 communities, including the town of Goldendale, White Salmon and Klickitat. Can't remember the 4th one off the top of my head. I think it might be Trout Lake, that are at high risk for wildfire loss of a whole community, according to the state's assessment they did a few years ago. But yes, we were very happy the way that turned out. Down at the aluminum plant and around John Day Dam, we've had a series of wildfires that are suspicious, because to have that many fires in the same general location is more than a coincidence in my professional experience. And then there have been suspicious rekindles related shortly after firefighters left from mopping up the 3 fires that were officially new starts. So that is being tracked by all of us in the response community, and working with the sheriff's office and the Rural 7 Fire District to make sure that the dispatchers are asking more pointed questions from people that are reporting. Do you see any other vehicles in the area? Any people? Is anybody leaving that area? And so on and so forth. So if we do have an arsonist, that we can narrow that down, figure it out, and get it dealt with, as we have in the past. There was sometime in June, and I did not look up the exact date, but a wildfire west of Sundale, not far west. that burn about 40 acres that did threaten that whole community of Sundale as well. Wanted to make note of that. And many other wildfires starts that were addressed by firefighters, and our volunteers need all the credit. Yesterday in my neighborhood, we had one up off of Pipeline Road that started in a canyon in a heavily forested area. And because of the quick response, everybody was right on scene and got it put out.
Do we know what started that?
No, at the time I left last night, there was still no determination. The homeowner closest to it said they heard a loud bang about 15 minutes before they saw the smoke, but didn't think anything of it.
They weren't running vehicles or anything at the time.
No, it is in the rock crawl, the area of the rock crawls, but they weren't having any of those activities that day. Any other questions?
Well, one thing I would want to say about the air assets, we've got the big rotor, the sky crane sitting down there, 2 fire bosses right now. We've got another couple fire bosses coming. We've got the DNR helicopter, and then we're also going to have some CL 140 or 415s. And I was like, I don't even know what that plane is, but we're going to have
That's
2
a
of
big
these
boat plane, isn't it? That
Oh,
takes off the
cool.
river.
that are going to get stationed down there. We're getting so much air assets
Good.
in the area that we're changing over the 100 LL tank, and that's going to be a Jet A tank so that we can manage these fires. Because if all of this assets are rolling at the same time, that is a massive amount of fuel just getting burnt in a short amount of time. And so we've got priority with the fuel haulers. So that's going to be really good. But the long range plan is my personal feeling is we need more fuel storage down there for large fires in the area. And the more of these fire assets we have down at the airport, the more valuable the airport is. And the more, the faster the response time.
Responsive for us.
We've seen how fast those fire bosses can stop and forward progress on a small fire.
Well, that's one of the things with the airport improvements up here that they're doing is mainly DNR staging. Long-term is the plan.
Sure. And I know, so in last month's CACIF meeting, Fire Chiefs Association, there was a report by DNR as what was actually at the airport in Dallasport at that time. And most of those resources were under contract with ODF, Oregon Department of Forestry, and there was a little uncertainty, concern about, since they're contracted ODF, what kind of, paperwork, bureaucracy we have to go through to get it for ours. That has been a non-issue so far. Upon request, they come and then they
Figure it out.
yeah, they get the official request backwards. Same thing with the Lyle fire. There was a strike team in the Dalles already stationed there for that. I think I can't remember what they were calling that, Paradise Valley, the one that started on the east end last week. And that strike team included one of our fire chiefs, just by chance. So he's listening to the radio, and they came immediately and got all the approvals on the back end.
Yeah, we've always said we've got to,
Yeah.
because we have had issues before with by the time, it's like if you could have utilized the asset, it would have been little. And by the time you went through all the bureaucracy, now it turned into this big, huge thing. And it's like, no, just figure it out, have some local jurisdiction, local discretion. And
Yeah, so what I've seen
that's good to hear.
actually happening on the ground is that all those resources are working in a regional cooperative. It doesn't matter who's paying or who's under contract for who. They go and they're requested and figure out that paperwork and all that later.
Right, because they're all contract
I am
planes anyways.
very happy to hear that, yeah. And I've been
Well, as
working.
long as everybody, and I assume that will continue as long as we don't have some glitch with somebody not wanting to pay for something.
Correct.
Where it's like, oh no, you were under contract with them, we're not paying for that.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
you didn't get the official blessing before
So,
you
yeah,
launched,
no.
so we're not paying you.
Yeah.
I don't believe anybody in our region is playing those kind of politics. I don't see that.
And when DNR has theirs there, then you've got ODFW and DNR, and hopefully they'll be able to mesh really well.
Because at the time of our report from DNR last month, they weren't staging anything in our county. It was all gonna be coming out of Wenatchee. And so that's a change.
I thought it was Yakima, and they just switched over, and now they're gonna
Could have
come
been.
down here.
Yeah.
See, the issue is when you fly out of the Dalles, you don't have any other commercial traffic, and there's no tower, and there's nothing like that. And so all these fire assets are coming here because they can just launch and go.
Visual flight rules, they don't have to get any approvals.
Yep. And their response time is actually a lot faster, so.
It's actually a benefit being a little airport, relatively speaking.
It's a benefit not having a tower.
Having a tower, just, what's my saying about everything? Just don't be stupid. Just,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, we're good.
Fly like you drive your car. Don't
Yeah.
run anybody up.
Yeah, just don't run into anybody.
Don't hit anything.
Right. Be a good neighbor. And don't run into anybody.
And I tried my best to be engaged with the airport manager. New manager is going to be coming on board sometime, and with FEMA, because we're looking at that airport as a, well, right now it's designated by the State Emergency Management Division as a staging area for the state, but FEMA is not designated. So if we can get some upgrades made there, then it may turn into a FEMA staging area for
And then we can get a lot more money.
catastrophic
Yeah.
incidents, yes. Yeah, we applied for that security fencing. I think I mentioned to you, got denied in the state homeland security grant that I applied for. But since we applied once, we can adjust. I think we need to apply for it in a phased approach, because we applied for the whole thing. It was like $500,000.
Yeah, it's kind of sticker shock.
It was more than the entirety of that particular grant.
And maybe what we'll do next time is if we can just get the fuel island fenced, then that'll get us to that next hurdle on getting to the next set of the staging, rather than, the whole perimeter.
Sounds good. I'll continue to work with the airport management as best I can and facilitate any of that.
And the board, just so you know, the board this morning, we agreed for the transfer from AMS from Dave to Jeff Bernard. And so that'll be coming in front of the board 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe.
Okay.
But at least it's somebody that's going to be taking over that knows the area and knows the airport. So it should be a seamless shift.
Okay. I'll be looking to make first contact.
And I can hook you up anytime.
Okay. Skipping over the iPods, there's nothing new there. Training, talked about the program coordinator, so I'm holding off on any of those changes and updates until I get a new coordinator up to speed. Yep. And my current program coordinator leaves the end of July. And you can see all the grant stuff there. If you have any questions ever, let me know. But that's all what we're trying to manage and keep track of at this point in time. Any other questions?
Question?
All you had to say about the EM coordinator leaving?
So he gave me a resignation, partially because it wasn't a good fit, and partially because at the same exact time we were determining that, his wife got a job offer for a fabulous position managing a bank over in Idaho.
Oh.
And she starts the 1st of August.
Oh, well.
So we agreed to.
That was gonna be my question. Are they leaving the area or are they just leaving the position? So leaving the area.
Okay.
And there, we did get some emails about the fireworks and not banning fireworks. I had very little time to look at them yet. They came into our generic department email address last week. But, what I told the board last week and put out in my media release still stands. It was, if we want to think about doing in the future, that's making a code as part of the updated burn ban code. My suggestion might be that anytime there's a county burn ban on, no fireworks allowed. Unless we enter into the next ice age, cooling period, global cooling, whatever they come up with next, right? Climate change goes the other way. That would by default automatically exclude the 4th of July for setting off fireworks. So that's something we have to consider. But, you know, there was a lot of people asking for it to be done. My assertion was and still is that just overloads the 911 system, and the deputies trying to respond to the whole county every time they're, you know, someone sees someone else light off a firework, they report that, and we can't handle that call volume. They're gonna do
The
it.
Lyle fire, if it was somebody throwing fireworks off a bridge, us banning fireworks is not gonna change that one iota.
Right.
Couldn't stop that.
So,
We need to
Yeah,
deal
that's
with.
never allowed.
Yeah. We need to
Banned
deal
or
with
not.
the individual offenders when they offend.
I mean, look at Oregon and they have, you know, their fireworks have to be this big or smaller, and it's all the Washington fireworks over there. Nobody's following that law, so why?
But even then, even if we ban the sale, we don't have control over the tribal sale of fireworks, correct? So all we would really be doing is banning the fire departments that sell it, and I think
With groups and
and the Lions Club.
Yeah.
they would just go out of town and get them and light them anyway.
And that is one comment I'll make. I don't usually get confrontational, but I was more than a little upset, I'll say, when we posted our media release asking the public to refrain from the use of fireworks because of the conditions. Almost immediately, a Fire District 6 Dallasport firefighter posted, "Hey, we're selling them, come get them." That's wholly inappropriate in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that fire district has been problematic for many years. So I'll put that on the public record. That was not appropriate. Do not appreciate it. Professionally, at least. So,
Any other questions? Going to turn this way because I'm going to run down the hall.
and we've got a tour.
We got a tour.
So I will see you all up at Emergency Management. Do you have any questions about anything? Make sure they let you in the gate.
Somebody's watching the camera today.
Yeah.
The camera works.
Two of them in there.
Since the chair ran away, I will take the meeting and we will reconvene at 1 o'clock. We are in recess.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Are we muted?
We're fixed now.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for folks online. We are now unmuted, hopefully, and you can hear us. Just so we have the record, we did the Pledge of Allegiance and then we adopted the business agenda with the one add-on. So that takes us to, I don't believe we have any minutes. Is that correct? Okay, that takes us to citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board. Please limit your comments to no more than 7 minutes. We have some folks in chambers. We'll also take folks online, but I am going to start there is some benefit to coming in person as well. It's nice to see that. If you're here for public comments, I'll look at the room first. No?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Okay, I will now open it up public comment. If there's anybody online or on Zoom or on the phone, unmute yourself, get our attention, and you'll be recognized. Either raise your hand, *6. Oh, I suppose that hasn't changed in the last couple of weeks.
You haven't been on that long.
211, sir.
Yes, 7211. Go ahead, please. Please identify yourself, your name for the record and what community you live in.
Greg Wagner, Goldendale, with the group CEASE, Citizens Educated About Solar Energy. I would like to know that when you rescinded the solar moratorium, you did it on findings of facts that lithium-ion batteries do not pose a danger to the people. I'd like to know what facts you used to come up with that conclusion and allowed you to rescind the moratorium. Is this information on the website? Is there a findings of facts that allow you to rescind the moratorium? Or did you just do it on an assumption? The resolution doesn't say there's a findings of facts on the commissioner's part that allowed them to rescind the moratorium. How did you come about that?
It's not been completed, as far as I know.
Nope. Gonna have a discussion on that later. Brother.
You wanted the citizens to have proof that batteries were a danger, and we did that. You said that they weren't a danger. You allowed that to use that to rescind the moratorium and not enact solar ordinances. What findings of facts did you use to prove that batteries don't pose a fire? June 29th, Morris, Illinois just had a major lithium-ion battery fire. They had to evacuate 4,000 citizens, 950 homes, took 30 fire units, 130 firefighters to fight this fire for 2 days. Water and foam did not put the fire out. They had to use 28 tons of cement to cover the fire. None of our firefighters were prepared to fight these fires, yet you approved batteries, lithium-ion battery storage for the Cypress Creek Renewable. If allowed, that's what it's going to be, and endanger the citizens. Why do you continue to ignore the facts that batteries are a danger and you're allowing it to happen? You have no proof that batteries are not a danger. You don't have one document that proves 100% that batteries never cause a danger to property or to people. Yet you use that as the excuse to rescind the moratorium because you do not want to create solar ordinances. You don't even have to create them. We already have 35 of them written that's ready to be enacted. You can write an ordinance to rescind the moratorium in 5 minutes, but you can't write ordinances for solar. Why is that? Why is your private agenda more important than what the majority of the citizens voiced their concerns and wanted a moratorium and wanted solar ordinances? Your own planning commission during the EOZ 2004 recommended that you create a solar EOZ. You ignored that. Your commissioner said, your personal attorney there at the county said you need solar ordinances, you need laws. You ignored him. You ignore everybody, and you just go on about business because you want what you want and don't care about the citizens. You're not the least bit concerned about us. Why do you continue to behave like this? Why don't you act like commissioners should and put the citizens first instead of big business? Why is it? You just want more money to build some more buildings or buy yourself a new chair for your new office desk? Come on. We the citizens are the county, not you three gentlemen. You also did the other thing. You're so in favor of wind and solar. Why isn't this new annex building 100% powered by solar? You have a natural gas line hooked up to the building so you can heat it with natural gas. The governor is going to outlaw natural gas. So when he does that, you'll have to turn off the gas to the building, retrofit the building for electric heat. It's going to cost the citizens more millions of dollars because you made another mistake. The $388,000 heated steps. Now it's at $450,000. Where is that going to end? $800,000? What happens when the heating elements in those steps fail? They burn open or short out. How will they be replaced? Will you have to come and jackhammer out the entire steps again to replace the heating elements? Are they replaceable? Have you thought about any of this stuff? Have you been proactive? Everything the commissioners do is reactive instead of proactive. Why do you continue to waste our money on things that the citizens don't want? Heated steps, the new building. You just continue to spend our money, always on the county workers, the county commissioners, never on the citizens. You never have a dialogue. You never have talked to the citizens once about solar. We get to make our little public comment now. Thank you, Mr. Wagner. You never have any discussion. But if I called in and wanted to talk to you about my barking dog, my neighbor's barking dog bothered me, you'll spend 5 minutes talking to that person. But important stuff like the solar, you fail to even talk to the citizens. You aren't doing your job. Thank you.
Does that conclude your comments, Mr. Wagner? I'm going to assume it does. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. If there is someone that wishes to address the board, this is your opportunity. You're not seeing any? Okay. I'll go back to in the room if there's anybody.
I think the heated steps are very nice.
Can you have your name for the
Kathy
record?
Moco.
Thank you.
I think the heated steps are for the citizens that want to come to the courthouse when it's cold out and we go to that slip. And I would also say, how old is the courthouse?
It was built in 1940, I believe.
So the steps lasted for 80.
80 years, yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
And one slip and fall accident lawsuit could be the cost of replacing, so.
Yeah.
Proactive is a good thing.
I would say.
Especially when we have.
Yeah, and half of it's paid for by state grant. 4901 is unmuted.
4901, did you wish to make a comment?
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Sherry from Houston. And I wanted to this week, surprise, not talk about the under canvas first and foremost, or the conditional use permit. I would like to talk about the letter from the sheriff and the letter of the county commissioner's response to the Klickitat County Sheriff Congress. And I like to take in both sides of every situation to be informed. And so I've read both letters, and I'm wondering, first off, I want to say I'm a bit concerned that this situation, I've heard some citizens really, talking about it and being upset about it. And my concern, first and foremost, is division upon the Klickitat County citizens. And I feel that that's the last thing we need as a county as we are recovering from the pandemic and we're trying to come together to get past this. So I'm putting that out there, is that I hope that this situation does not continue to cause division of opinions to our citizens. And that being said, I've read both statements from the sheriff and also from the county commissioners. I've read the newspaper articles in the Sentinel and the Gorge newspaper. And what I found in both of them, I found a common consensus that everybody wants to follow the Constitution, whether it's of the United States or of Washington State's Constitution itself. And I find that consistent with both the sheriff and the county commissioners. So that being said, it sounds to me that we're all in agreement that the constitutional law will be followed. And that also being said, brings me to the commissioner's letter of why the commissioners and county employees feel intimidated and threatened from the sheriff's letter. I would like to hear from the commissioners yourself on what exactly felt threatening and intimidated to the commissioners. And before I end that and have you, whoever wants to answer, if you want to answer collectively or personally, is that I just feel that if nobody has done anything wrong, there should be no fear of being arrested, or because I don't think the sheriff can just arrest people. I think there has to be some sort of court action with a warrant. I'm not up on the law myself, but I just feel like there couldn't be just willy-nilly arrests out there. That some sort of something would have to happen. Somebody would have to do something to have a reason to be arrested. So that being said, if nobody's doing anything wrong, I don't understand where the threat and that the county feels from the sheriff's letter. So can you help me understand from your point of view how the sheriff's letter feels threatening to our county? And, you know, because I don't want our county to feel threatened. I don't want this division. So if you could help me understand how it felt threatening to the county, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, does that conclude your comments, Ms. Bosque?
Well, I was hoping to have better clarity of, you know, because like I said, I read this in the newspaper. It's front page story in our local government. And again, I'd hate to see the citizens or the county employees be at odds with each other when we're all agreeing that we want to follow constitutional law and we all should be protected. So that being said, I read the letter that the commissioner wrote to the sheriff that said that you feel threatened from his statement. And I'd like to, if you guys would, you know, answer me what feels threatening from the sheriff's statement that he wrote June 16th.
Ms. Bosque, this is Commissioner Anderson. I would advise that in order to get the longest and clearest answer to that question that you're asking, you can go on the county website and review our meeting from 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. It is the first thing on the video, and there's 30 minutes worth of conversation about just the answer to that question. June 22nd.
Okay, so, all right, so you're referring me on. Okay, I was hoping you could answer publicly, but
We have,
I
and we
okay.
spoke about it for 30 minutes publicly. And so that's, I'm referring you
Okay.
to not a short answer, but to the full and complete answer.
Okay, so as a citizen, I again like to point out that reading both letters or statements, I read in both that people want constitutional law being followed. And so to me, I hope that brings people together and supporting each other versus any sort of separation or angst to another county. You know, I'd hate to see that happen in our county. And I feel like it's kind of going down that line that there's being a separation and a line drawn in the sand. And I don't think it should go that way when we're all agreeing that it's Constitution that matters and that our court systems figure it out. And there is no threat here. There's no threat that I see to our county. And that I just hope that and I feel like this side of it's rhetoric, not the sheriff, that the response of the county doesn't seem to have reason to feel threatened when if nobody's doing anything wrong. So I just hope that this can heal and not get worse in division. That's what I'd have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. We are still in citizen comment. So if there is someone that wishes to comment, please raise your hand or get our attention. Unmute yourself, *6.
Lynn. On Zoom.
Oh, Lynn on Zoom.
That's later.
Thank you. This is Lynn Mason in White Salmon. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Sherry's comment. Maybe Sherry, you missed it if you read the actual proclamation from the sheriff, you'll see that he said that he would arrest our public officials for violating the Constitution according to his determination of the Constitution. And that's alarming. That's alarming to everyone in this county. I think people are reacting appropriately. And if any division is being created, it's coming from the sheriff's department. I mean, regular citizens, we're fearful if he's willing to threaten and arrest our public officials, our public elected officials, then how would he not just arrest us for minor minor things. It is a huge concern. I don't think it should be downplayed. I don't think we should sweep it under the rug. This is unacceptable. And it angers me. It worries me. Apparently it's radical enough to make the front page news. It's not okay. And I will say this too, there's a lot of people that are scared to speak out. They fear speaking out against the sheriff in this county. He knows it. He has 150 plus person posse. They live beside some of these people. They're afraid to speak out. Things happen in their communities. They're afraid. People that come to visit our county are afraid also. And people have expressed that to me. This is created from the sheriff's department. This is not rhetoric that the citizens are creating. This is the source is coming from there. It's not good for business. It's not good for morale. It's not good for our citizens. It's not good for our elected officials. It's beyond acceptable. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. We are still in public comment, and I'm going to recognize, go ahead. Please give your name for the record.
Ruby Irving, 721 Pine Forest Road.
Okay.
And completely off topic, but we have a corner down by where I live, and it's kind of a blind corner, and people like to go 50, 60, 80 miles an hour down that road around that corner. And I was just wondering what the feasibility would be, being able to get some kind of a speed bump close to that corner, because there are kids that live like right there. And we've also had a couple of accidents, one involving a horse that got obliterated. So I'm wondering what the possibility would be to maybe get a speed
Is
bump.
this where it goes west and turns north? That part of the corner of that intersection?
Yeah, it'll go south and then it goes north. So I mean, it's a blank corner coming down a hill and then around.
Can you give me the like the area again?
Cross streets?
Well, Pine Forest and Cedar Valley is just
Okay.
West of that.
Thank you. Okay, we are still in, does that conclude your,
Yeah, I
Your-
just wanted
your
to throw
comments.
that out there and maybe get an answer for it later on.
okay. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. So this is an opportunity for folks. I'll look in the room again. No. People online, unmute yourself, raise your hand. *6 to unmute yourself. Could be on any topic.
I've got some people who admit.
Oh,
Becky Miles is unmuted.
okay. Becky Miles, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. I was wondering if you can confirm that our taxpayer dollars have paid for the Chris Ann Hall Liberty training for the sheriff's office, and whether or not that was for sure mandatory for sheriff's office employees. For one.
But first, before we go, I did say your name for the record, but what community do you live in, Ms. Miles?
White Salmon.
Thank you.
I would add that 2 commissioners have mentioned that Songer told them that the training was approved by the CJTC. I wrote this CJTC because I could not find, I couldn't believe that they would approve of that particular training based on its background and Chris Ann Hall herself and her relationship to white supremacy that's been written up in several articles. And so I wrote the CJTC and they, to find out where it was because I couldn't find it on their list. And they responded saying they did not approve of the training. They said he can do what he wants, he's a sheriff, but we do not approve of this training. And it was my understanding that that was one reason you guys gave him the green light. So anyway, as I said, Chris Ann Hall has had multiple articles about her and her connection to white supremacy. And I'd like to know why this was approved.
I don't believe that you gave him, he doesn't need your approval to do a training.
Right. I can say just from personal experience, because I, as the chair, am the one that signs on the hosting agreements. And it was on the hosting agreement for the training, which again, we don't have the ability to give or not give permission for another elected official's training. But it was on the form that this was continuing education that was approved by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. And it was, I'm doing this from memory, was going to take place and did take place in the Dalles, I believe, at the Portage Inn or whatever we call it now.
Shiloh Inn.
The Shiloh Inn now. I'm showing my age. Rob will understand my reference to the Portage Inn. Yeah, so that's really all I can say at this point.
Yeah, well, they did not approve it, and I think I sent you that letter that they said they did not approve of it. So if he said that it was something that they approved of, that was not true. Just saying. And I don't approve of using my taxpayer dollars to pay for something of that nature. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Becky, I don't have anything in my email box from you, and I don't believe Dan does either.
No, I sent it to Dave. He's my commissioner.
I'll forward it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Forward it to Lee.
Yeah.
I'll forward it to Lee, right? Not to each other.
Thank you for your comments, Becky.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are still in citizen comment. So if folks wish to comment, please get our attention, raise your hand, unmute yourself, identify yourself in your community. Seeing anybody? Okay. I'm not seeing anybody. Anybody? We have a lot of screens to look at. Okay. I will open again in the room if there's anybody. People will come and go. Okay, not seeing anybody. Okay, well, we will be in citizen comment for the next 5 minutes. So if you
4901.
4901, please identify yourself. Did you wish to comment to the board?
Yes, this is Sherry Bosque. If I have a few minutes left, I was wondering, I was following up from Greg Wagner's comment about the findings of fact for rescinding the moratorium. Is that document available for viewing to the public?
No, because we haven't done it yet.
So does that mean the moratorium is still in place?
No, we just haven't done the findings of fact yet.
How long do you think it'll be before you have that available?
Hopefully within the next week.
Okay, I'll follow up. Thank you.
I believe that's a discussion for you today.
Yes. Okay, if you just joined the meeting, we are in citizen comment period right now for the next 4 minutes. So if you wish to comment to the board, please raise your hand or get our attention. Unmute yourself, *6.
I do have something.
Okay, can you state your name and community?
Yes, Susan Kelsey, I believe I'm in Goldendale.
Okay.
You move so often now you can't remember.
What's that?
You move so often you can't remember.
Thank God we're
Miss
out of
Kelsey.
the trailer. Yes, sorry. I received an email, and it's about the situation of the original letter of Bob Songer and your response. And I viewed the 20-second video of y'all in that meeting, and you were pretty thorough in discussing that. I knew where you were coming from. But someone said on that meeting that you talked about the possibility of removing the jail from Bob's management. And I could not find that in that meeting, so I wanted to, yeah.
After we had our discussion and Dave checked out, the prosecutor sat down and read a statement, and I believe that's when he originally brought it up. That is a possibility.
And, you know, I wasn't really able to hear the prosecuting attorney's words very well when I was listening to it.
I know he brought it up, and I don't remember whether it was the first time he spoke, whether Dave was here, or whether it was the second time after Dave was gone. But it was one of those two times.
I think it was when I was here, but that was,
9:30.
yeah, it was the 9:30 comment, and that was, I think, in his
Well, he
comments.
spoke again.
Oh, I
5
didn't,
minutes
yeah,
after
I
he
didn't,
left
yeah,
for the airport.
the airport.
Okay, so to clarify, what I'm hearing from you is that that was brought up, but it was from Dave Purnell, not you.
Correct.
Okay.
I believe he
So,
brought up the jail and the posse.
okay. It is my understanding then that the commissioners oversee the budget. And that is it. From that.
Some counties, the commissioners oversee the jail as well.
Okay, so.
Like Benton County just took their jail back under the wing of the commission, away from the sheriff.
So is this an open discussion that you're going to act on?
We have not had any discussions amongst the three of us.
Do you foresee that open discussion happening?
I wasn't planning on it.
I'm open to any discussion, but I wasn't planning on bringing it up at this time.
Or in the future?
Anything's possible in the future. I would never say anything's not possible in the future. I mean, for instance, if we elected a new sheriff next year and had 27 lawsuits out of the jail because inmates were getting beaten, I just went on record and said I would never take the jail away from the sheriff. That's a different scenario. I will never say what could possibly happen in the future.
Okay, so I'll be even more clear. Given the situation that you responded to with Bob Songer, do you foresee this conversation happening on any future agenda, excluding that particular episode?
The way things are right now, no,
Okay.
but things could change in the future.
Okay.
Does that
Yes.
conclude your comments?
I appreciate
And we
it.
are out of citizen comment. Thank you all, folks, for commenting. We will move along in our agenda. So we have this is the time we usually have for public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings. We have no scheduled of those things. So that brings us to unfinished business. Building Inspection and Code Compliance Director Lynn Ward proposed resolution to continue the suspension of abatement of nuisance complaint cases through December 31st, 2021 to restructure the program. I will ask Ms. Ward to come forward. Continue our conversation.
There's always continue.
Yes, I know.
There's always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow.
So the issue, so far we have not established a firm direction on how we want to proceed with code enforcement.
Yeah, I had hoped these two
I know,
would solve all
Just
this while I
figure
was
that out while you
gone.
were gone.
Yeah. In 1 week, come on. they
Didn't
should
feed
have-
them enough. So, and currently I don't have anyone in that position, to do enforcement because we've been holding off while we've been deciding. So the resolution we had expired. And so now we either need to have another resolution, don't do another resolution, and then figure out what we're gonna do with the verbiage, because right now we don't have the title because it's Title XX because it was removed when we adopted 15 and 16 February 1st. So it's not currently like a title at all. So that kind of puts me in a limbo as well, with people wanting me to proceed. Well, I don't even have anything with the title currently. So what can we and can't we do legally? And so we need to decide, today, if we're going to have another resolution to further postpone while we come to some decisions. If you want to revise the verbiage. Yeah, you know, I think it kind of
Right.
puts me in a limbo.
Yes.
I have no problem with the verbiage the way it is. I want to make sure that going and enforcing anything that isn't a public health, sewage issue type of thing, that we're not picking and choosing which ones we're going to enforce. We're either enforcing all or none,
Right, and the only thing we've been doing now is sewage.
which is what it needs to happen minimum. So I would say we just continue that path for 6 months and hopefully,
And we have a workshop, I believe it's the 19th of July.
hopefully squeeze that in through the budget process and get the prosecutor in here and be able to get verbiage that works for everybody.
And I didn't know if there was any revisions that needed to be made or anything like that.
Comments?
I read it, as much as I, don't want to have to extend another 6 months. I want to fix the problem. That's just not where we're at yet. And I'm a realist when it comes to your time and availability. I've seen the number of building permits coming through, and I know that we just can't do it. Just flat out can't do it right now. And that there's always bigger fish to fry. There always seems to be bigger fish to fry. And I'm glad we've got a workshop scheduled, and hopefully we can get to PA or Rebecca in here. And so I'm still going through their responses and trying to write my thoughts down. So that being the case, I'm fine signing.
Yeah, I would say I'm fine with this. I don't think we have a choice right now, because I think I'm not even sure where we're at right now, because our current one expired.
Right.
But we also removed the title.
Right, so
I'm not sure. So technically it's in force. I mean, the code compliant as far as the department, but it's to enforce a code that doesn't actually exist right now. And so I don't really see that we have any alternative. I know both of my seatmates, we want to get this settled. And we have some policy discussions that we just got to make our decision what we're going to do, and in consultation, of course, with what we can do, and get that title XX actually fleshed out and get it adopted and go with that. So I support the resolution as it's written. I think I appreciate that it wasn't just an extension of the previous one, that part of our reasoning for that was the dangers with COVID, and that which don't really exist anymore as far as it pertains to nuisance abatement. And so this is just a flat out, we're just still suspended while we're restructuring the department. I think that's accurate. So I can support that. I guess I would ask, this was the unfinished business. We do have a resolution in front of us. I'm assuming we have no procedural issue with adopting this resolution. I mean, it was in the public record or not.
I would say normal process would be to have it on the consent for next week, just to allow anybody that might not have seen it to see it. But if you would prefer, it's your prerogative.
Well, it just concerns me because we are already on day 6 we're 6 days into having nothing, and we're kind of in conflict with ourselves, and that seems inconsistent. And it was in the packet, so it was noticed, so people had an opportunity, and they of course can comment it after audit. And this extends it for the 6 months, but it doesn't. As it says in there, it's not mandatory. We can rescind it at any time once we're ready to. I would hope we can get it figured out, and we can get it adopted. We could do that.
I myself would love to have something that we've figured out and we know what we're doing, and I know the public would appreciate that as well.
We actually think will work. That's the kicker, right?
That's the problem. Right. And the expense involved currently.
That's me. I don't want to throw a bunch of money at something I don't think will work.
Right.
You want a motion?
I would, if my seatmates are comfortable with that.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the updated resolution number to be determined from the building department for the suspension of nuisance complaint cases through December 31st, 2021.
Second motion.
You have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution in the matter of the suspension of abatement of nuisance complaints. Any further discussion?
I think it should say nuisance in code.
Oh,
If you just say nuisance, it'd just be nuisance.
okay.
It says a nuisance abatement, or it says with code enforcement and abatement program.
That's what your motion was.
Investigation.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We're good with that.
I was wondering if we had
A hard copy. All right. Next is under unfinished business is a request from Natural Resource Economic Development Director Dave McClure to allow him to carry over some vacation hours through December 31st. He was here. Oh, he always goes behind that post. Come on up, Mr. McClure. Oh, there's. I don't know if Casey wants to stay or. Oh. Rob's here. No. Well, you don't work for me, so you can say no.
No, I'm good.
She said no.
Yeah.
She did say no.
Yeah. All right, so.
So the board allowed me to carry 100 hours over from last year to this year vacation, more than I'm allowed. And I wasn't able to use it before the June 30 deadline. Casey did send me a heads up here a month or two ago about that, but there was no getting to it. And so I sort of took a look back for my first 6 months this year, with 173 hours being your basic standard work month. I've worked 172 hours over for those first 6 months. Of that, 169 was doing public records requests. It's not to say that that's what I did during all of the overtime, but that took up a chunk of my time this year. I think that's easily an order of magnitude more than I see typically in a year.
Or in multiple years. Did you go multiple
Yeah.
years? on that one?
Yeah, usually don't get grabbed in those, but this year I did.
Could you repeat those numbers again? I'm trying to write it all down.
Okay, so if I were to qualify for overtime, it'd be 172 hours of overtime
In the first 6 months.
in the first 6 months.
And in that same period, you had 169 hours of
public
records requests.
And it's actually going to be more because I'm not that rigorous on noting that down. I'll work an hour here, work an hour there, and I'll just have it down as admin time place where I really pay attention to where I'm going to be building a grant or some other restricted fund where I need to be precise in the hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Did you have any other extenuating circumstances throughout other than the public records request the first half?
A new hire to replace your position, Commissioner Henderson.
That seems a little, yeah.
Don't be so pointed.
Not that you abandoned me.
Yeah.
I think he still shoots for that apology.
Yeah, and I lost my office manager at the end of March, and so that's been a challenge. And then staff and sickness and other leave reasons for leave. So it's been a pretty busy first 6 months. And the hours were there, but how do you take them?
Do you anticipate if the board grants you to carry them forward that you'll be able to use them in the next 6 months?
Yeah, I'm planning a trip.
Oh.
next month. And then maybe a second trip next month or in September. I need to see family that I
Let's
haven't
see,
seen.
100 hours, so that's 2.5 weeks, so.
I'll probably need to disappear some more hours than that.
Yeah.
Usually I've got hours left over at the end of the year, and I take them the last 2 to 3 weeks of the year when things are slower. But this year, it's just because of the small business grants and all the other stuff we were
that's
doing
another-
last year.
That's
It
another
just,
reason.
yeah, I was able to take off early February before the COVID declaration and for a week. But after that, it just wasn't a happening thing.
This came up last week this was on the consent agenda and I could not vote for this. Love Dave, nothing personal. To me, it's a fairness of all employees or setting one employee above the rest. There was, I want to say 16 or 17 employees that had to carry over and use their time. All but one did. One of them, another department head, gave away 100 hours. So to me, it's, what is your answer to that person? If you extend here, what are you going to give it back his 100 hours? Are you going to say, well, sorry, I know you did what we told you to, but now you just lost your 100 hours. What precedent does it set to the other 16 employees who followed recommendations and followed the warning that was sent out 2 months ago? To me, all employees are fair and equal and all should be treated fair and equal. And unfortunately, if that means one has to be harmed for the good of all in following a rule across the board, that's the way it should be.
Okay.
That's just personal opinion.
Okay.
I understand that he's been busy this year, but other departments have been just as busy. A lot of this happened last year. Last year was busy with COVID, but he had full staff last year. This was carried over from last year. So I understand the extra busy this year, but it was still an issue last year. So I will be a no on this.
Okay. Any comments?
I think if the other individual who gave 100 hours had came in and asked if he could carry that over so that he could go see his son or something else, as he's been busy, I would have entertained that. I think the only way that you can potentially, when you say, you know, please use it by June, well, if you haven't noticed, it's been a crazy 18 months. And when somebody earns something and it's part of their benefit package, I want to honor that as much as possible. Have you given time away in the past, your vacation time, to other employees that are on sick or long-term?
Yes.
Not once, but multiple times, correct?
Right.
And that being the case, I would hate to have 100 hours that could potentially go towards somebody else who's going through a life-changing circumstance that may not be able to be given later on this year. So I will be voting in favor of it.
Okay. I believe in people taking their vacation time. I think that's, and I can appreciate Commissioner Christopher's concern about, you know, fairness and making sure we don't undermine the system. But I also think, as Commissioner Anderson said, I think the last 18 months is, if there's any time for special circumstances, it's now. And I think particularly in the first 6 months of the year, with the loss of a key staff member that took another job.
Kirsten was amazing.
Yeah. And then the second loss, you know, it's a small department, and I understand when just because you have you have to keep the lights on and the door open, and it's like, even if I got the time coming, I just can't take it, or we could have, mission failure on a lot of things. And so I appreciate that. And I would echo Commissioner Anderson's comment about the one that donated the 100 hours, that I would have entertained, I don't know who it is or what the circumstances were, but if they could make a compelling case, I may have considered that as well. So I will be in favor of this. I do, with the caveat, is that you've got to get your time. And I realize, you know, it's not always going to be COVID, and it's not always, but there is always something seeming to go on that there is. And unfortunately, I don't believe public records requests are going to be less. And that's something we as a county are going to have to deal with as far as staffing and responding to those, as far as, because we have to have staff so that they can actually use those vacation hours, because saying as somebody that just got back from vacation, I do, you know, people need to recharge, and otherwise we're not getting our money's worth from employees that are exhausted and burnt out. And I'm not saying you're exhausted and burnt out. You are you're
The Energizer Bunny.
you are the Energizer Bunny, right? When I grow up, I want to be you, but you still, even Energizer Bunnies have to have their batteries changed once in a while. So Casey left. I don't know what action. I mean, I guess we will take whatever action we need, at least, 2 to 3. And again, no disrespect to Commissioner Christopher.
Either. I've got to be across the board.
Yep.
Your position resonates. Understand what you're saying.
So we'll take whatever action we need to make it so. And
Do we have that
Originally, when I talked to
consent
him,
agenda item from last week?
Originally, when I talked to Dave about this, I was thinking of bringing up some kind of buy down or payout or 50% or
If you
something.
would like the original, I can go print it
But
off so
that
you guys
was
can
before
sign
I
it.
thought
Go ahead and
that
make that
was
motion.
the way to try it.
Can you print it real quick? So
Well, it is on my desk. but I just- I didn't-
That might be an
You can
option
make
that we
it
look at
motion
in the
easier.
future to
Yes.
alleviate this position we're in today.
Right. So if you will stand by momentarily, I guess we'll
Sitting by.
sit by.
Does our HR director have anything he wants to say right now?
No. Staying out of it.
And just so we know, the auditor's office has no issue with going into the computer and changing it from 0 and putting the 100 back on
It has
there.
not been removed yet.
Oh, it hasn't?
We're waiting to this decision.
Yeah, well, that makes life easier, doesn't it?
That's why we had to
Well, we
do
have
that
a
last
couple
week.
of other people we have to take it away from, so.
You got to take it away from some other people, by the way, just so you know. It's only fair.
And
Our
nobody-
table is open.
Nobody else.
Sorry if I'm giving you
applied
one
to
more
a little
thing.
longer, Or hadn't talked to you?
Not talk to us.
I will say one thing. I don't think the other 16 knew the table was open.
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
we-
they,
I feel bad because 2 months ago, I told HR to send a reminder and tell them it needs to be used or they're going to lose it. So that reminder came out as I was sitting in this chair with you gentlemen sitting there. He sent the reminder to everybody, so they used it or lost it. So that's one more reason why I have to stick with my
So
decision.
you had a conversation with the HR director?
Well, I was sitting right here and you were sitting right there, so.
Oh, I
It
must have
was-
been
it
one of
was
those
during-
situations where I wasn't
It
listening to
was
you.
during an HR update that I wanted them, I asked them where we were in terms of everybody using their vacation. And he said some have and some haven't. And I said, can we send a reminder with a little tone in it?
Use it or lose it.
Okay, I would make a motion that employee number M5248 be allowed to extend the deadline for using the 100 hours of carried vacation time from June 30th to December 31st, 2021, with the caveat that it will not be extended beyond that.
Have a second, or I will step down and second the motion. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Nay. So it carries by majority. So the motion is passed.
Thank you.
On another note, can you make sure that 169 hours is written down and forwarded on, because we're trying to quantify how many hours we're spending. And so Mochi's working on hers, and it'd be good to see. And if you know how many hours according to which public records request would be great.
Most of them have a specific, there are times when there are multiple ones going on at the same time, and I just said,
Said public records.
yes.
Okay.
I think, but that's good enough for us as far as it
Okay.
wouldn't necessarily have to be tied to
I mean,
each
that's an-
specific.
That's
That's
a
the,
month worth of work.
yeah.
That's 1/6 of the regular FTE. right
FTE
then.
is doing it.
At a director level position.
Yeah.
So I said it'd be nice to have non-directors doing that. I just don't know if they're capable.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Is that a free signature motion?
It's a
or
no,
what?
no, it's a none at this point.
I was just using it to indicate that it'll get printed off and
There's a sticky
Chair
note
will sign it
so I don't-
before he goes home.
So I'll own it.
You probably Jake and write no on it
It's my stuff.
instead of Jay.
There you go.
At least you can. tell that
Okay.
it's between the signatures.
Yeah, there's two.
Okay, we are to our add-on, which is new business Juniper Point lease agreement between NSC Smelter LLC in Klickitat County. Emergency mit. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind, wrong week. I was like, you guys did that. No, that brings us to budget discussion. Human Resources Administrative Services Director Van Cleve and Fiscal Manager Jen Bartley.
You really missed us that much. You want to go?
I know, I'm gonna go back and rehash, yeah, get rid of that.
You've been taking notes of it.
That's all, just so that I remember.
Do you write those back?
No. I just write them down so that it makes it, so I remember them easier.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon. So Jen is working off-site this week, and she's on the phone to join us in this conversation. We have time scheduled Thursday for ongoing budget discussions, starting at 8 and then supposedly going till 3:15, but there's a conflict at 2 in this room, so we would need in by 2 if you wanted to extend it to the afternoon. So really today, Jen and I are just here to, well, first of all, the auditor did send out the call for budget estimates, and that went out as per your wording, and so that's been issued. So Jen and I are just here to see, do you want to meet Thursday? And if so, do you want to continue your general discussions? Is there information that you would like Jen to bring on specific issues? She's off-site, but she's able to get some information for you. It's just, we're trying to keep the Thursdays scheduled, or at least discussed, open for you guys to have continued fairly high-level budget discussions until we get to actually seeing the numbers from the departments. We've talked in the past a couple of times about different scenarios, both in expense and revenue. Each of those would involve different potentially constituents and or departments for sure. So we're just trying to kind of narrow that down if possible so that we can begin to schedule some of those discussions, either without entities or departments or all of the above, if that's warranted or your desire. We know the budget process is going to take longer, 10-minute presentations, or departments have been warned, I believe, by Brenda and Heather.
In that letter.
It was
In that letter, yeah, to expect.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. So Jen, did you want to add anything?
No, it sounds good. Just wanted to have like a little quick reminder that, you know, we intended on meeting on Thursday, and any direction would be great to keep the discussion on action items.
I will kind of open it up to my seatmates as far as.
Are you working offsite, Jen, or are you on
Yeah.
vacation?
I'm working off-site this week, conflict of schedule with one of the kids' camps.
So for Thursday, is there anything that we have on the agenda that can't wait?
No, we don't actually have an agenda item. That's why we're here to see. And Leah's thankfully blocked out these Thursdays, I think most of them, July and August.
Right.
And so we're just
For us to have those
discussions, and we'll always try and check in the Tuesday to see if you need any information. So there's nothing scheduled, no topic scheduled.
We do, I don't know, because Finance Committee is meeting on Friday, and I know the committee chair, the treasurer, likes to come in the next week.
Right.
And talk about that, so I don't know if that, I was kind of wondering, I was kind of curious as far as, I know we had discussed as far as all of the Thursdays, because we have a lot of things to discuss, but we don't really have an agenda yet. And so, I'm curious what we want to work on. As far as I'm totally open to coming on Thursday, although I don't think Ms. Bartley's being entirely accurate. I can see from your background that off-site looks suspiciously like
Sandpoint?
Yeah.
Sandpoint was the 4th. Yes, I'm in Spokane. Liberty Lake, actually.
So, I mean, yes, I mean, if you are, I mean, so I would defer to the seatmate as far as, I mean, I would say for myself, I'm not necessarily, if we decide we want to go ahead and meet on Thursday, you know, I would like us to take one block and talk about revenues and maybe get some, flesh out which would mean, because, you know, we can wait for the numbers, but we know from Jen's excellent work that we have problems in the general fund, and those we knew we had problems in the general fund prior to COVID, and those they've been kind of masked by all the cash sloshing around, but overall, systemically, there's a problem with the general fund that we're going to have to deal with, and we're going to have information on, you know, there's really 3 ways to deal with it. You either cut, you know, no new revenue, you cut to make it balance, or you don't cut anything, you somehow generate more revenue, or a combination of the two. And I think we need to know, because we've never really done that before as far as on the revenue side, because we've never done it that. We've never considered balancing things with additional revenue. And so I think it would be good to get some, because I was surprised from talking to a couple of people, I don't want to say misunderstanding, but the potential that's out, you know, is that the tools that we have in front of us that we could use potentially, that there's from people that are pretty in the know that really didn't know what tools. And so I'm anticipating that that's not isolated to 1 or 2 people, it's everybody. And I think, you know, ultimately it will be the board's decision as far as how we proceed. But I think in anything, particularly if we're talking about revenue, although not particularly, if we're talking about cuts only, we will definitely want to be having discussions with our partners, which that's probably one of them.
Right on.
Fred, you could just say it. Yeah, no, that's right. But I mean, so I think we need that information as far as what the potential tools are, whether it's, you know, we keep talking about terms as far as, but we really drill down into that as far as what's the potential, as far as whether it's like what sales tax increases are available to us at, you know, what levels, what would that likely generate if we did that, so that we are talking about real numbers as far as, because you can have a philosophical discussion about, I'm opposed to all new taxes. Well, yeah, I am. That's a pretty easy position to stake out, except it's not realistic, unless, especially it's not realistic, I don't even know what that means. Yeah. You know, I don't know. And I think, so I would see us focus, I would like to see one on the, you know, if we were, you know, what are the universe of possibilities as far as the revenue side of things, and then a similar one on the, what are some others, you know, as far as either cuts only, what that would look like to make it balance. I'm just saying personally, I don't think that's practical, just because I'm
not sure it's possible.
I'm not sure it's possible. And then, you know, whatever, or a combination. And then actually there's a subset of that, which is repurposing existing discretionary spending. Because that's another big, because we, unlike other counties, we actually have a lot of things that we are funding that are not required. They're discretionary.
And that could come up under revenue.
We can talk about moving things around, and that's that third option, really.
So none of the other commissioners haven't spoken yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a good topic for the finance committee, because we have talked about some of those issues in the finance committee in the past, to kind of narrow those revenue, what are true options, and then tee those up for next Tuesday to bring back to you to see if that's, or we meet Thursdays, obviously, as a commission, and I'm sure Greg and Brenda would be there as well to have that discussion on Thursday. I don't know their schedules, but
So I talked a lot, so.
No, you hit all the key points, but for me, it's kind of, I just wanted to add that I want to make sure that we're looking at numbers for not just this year, but potential future years, that we're not fixing one thing today and then, oops, we need to take a little more for next year. That we have a plan going forward to try to get this under control.
Yeah, I would say that whatever we end up doing, it needs to be sustainable, at least for the foreseeable future, because we don't, you don't, once you get out more than 5 years, you don't know.
Let's say it covers 3-4 hours.
Right.
With that.
I don't see how we can have a meeting and have all the information prepared by Thursday, when we didn't have an agenda topic until Tuesday. I'm not gonna put all that on, Jen to try to do between now and then. That's, I'd rather have good numbers with good background. But I'm like you, we need to know what we can and can't do. What are our sideboards? Where can we go with revenues? I mean, we have, in essence, for the last 20 years, given any potential revenues that we could be bringing in, because people can only pay so much in taxes. And instead, all the junior taxing districts have been able to pass the levies and bonds and everything because we haven't been increasing ours. But we're getting to the point where, I'm sorry, inflation's 8% right now. If you think we're gonna be able to survive this
Managers on one.
Huh?
Managers on one.
Yeah.
So I appreciate and understand. I just want to state that, Jen, and I know it's unusual to bring forward a meeting without an agenda. But we've never, as far as I know, started this early, having a general discussion from the commissioners and as well as 2 new commissioners. So we don't necessarily like bringing you a meeting with no agenda, but having time for you guys to, like you've done in the past, just have general discussion like you are today. Each one helps us narrow that agenda down to what you want to see and how you want to see it, so that we can look at those numbers. I suspect a status quo budget with 5 union contracts and a salary survey is going to be a substantial increase just in a status quo budget. So,
Yeah, so I would say, at this point, I don't see anything productive about having a meeting on Thursday. Do we think we could have, if we flesh some stuff out on and I don't want to necessarily be focused on revenue, but that to me is the not easiest as far as solving the problem, but it's easy because those have very specific, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and we can calculate those, because these are all things, we're not reinventing the wheel, because every other county is already doing all of those
But
things.
not only that we could do this, but it's going to make this big of a dollar amount.
Right. That's what I want, is to run the numbers. Like I know, like I just know, like our general sales tax. So we are at 0.5%. We have 0.5% that is banked. There's nothing that says you have to take all of it or don't, but there's all kinds of other ones too. So that one's really easy to quantify, because it should be, if you for each 0.1, it would generate this much revenue. And so we would get some real numbers based on our current sales tax receipts. And that's just one example. There's other ones as far as criminal justice, the safety tax, there's different ones. There's all these different ones that we can look at. Because I think it's anything that we look at is likely going to be a suite of things to make it both sustainable and that it's tied to specific things that are important to the community that get funded. Right. And, frankly, our community, and we've been able to do it, has got off, we've been able to afford this stuff because we don't need all those other things. We haven't. But I would remind people that, when I came into office 15 years ago, the landfill generated, close to $8 million a year. Now it generates a little over 9, on average 9.3, 9.4, not 10.6, 9.4. That's a good. What's the inflation been in 15 years? Yeah. And so that the delta between of what was discretionary, yes, I inherited 15 years ago a lot more flexibility with those dollars than exists today. They're not. They're basically everything is allocated and then some. And it isn't because we've been building buildings and spending money on things and whooping it up. It's just, if you just took the base inflation in 15 years, that same money would be, would have to be 11 or 12 million dollars today to equal.
And each of those allocations has a constituency, and I'm not talking about the departments, I'm talking about each of those dollars.
Right. That
So
goes out there.
Each allocation or reallocation.
So I do know that whatever we do, which we have to do something, because we're not going to kick the can. We better know what we're doing and be able to explain it as far as what our rationale is for whatever that is, to the public, because this will be new to them. This is a discussion that used to be had 25 or 30 years ago.
Well, and every action that ultimately you take will have a reaction of some kind, and trying to anticipate what those reactions are internally and externally. Yes, that's going to be as important.
Well, I think when you start raising, call them revenues, you better be able to show the public where you sharpened your pen on your
Exactly. Right.
With that being said, if one thing I could ask you and Jim to look at, it's those big ticket things that actually move the needle. Things like, when a $69 million airplane shows up, can we quantify that and the reason that they come here? And if we raise income or the sales tax up this much, would they still come here? And are we actually raising more money, or are we losing money?
Or you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Are we shooting ourselves in the foot? So that's one that I'd like to look into. Another one that I think would be willing to look into is we've never had a budget line item in there for timber sales and timber revenues. But I think over the course of last month and hopefully this month, we should get about $1 million. That changes. Yeah, that changes a budget.
The equation, right?
One-time money, but
well, it's
$1 million one time.
It shouldn't be one-time money.
Yeah, right.
Every year of sustainability balance. What it should.
Can only fix so many things.
Yeah. But that's one thing that, if we have discussions with every single one of our departments in here. Why is DNR not in here saying, we're going to cut, this is our plan for next year. We're going to cut this much, and at our current estimate, this is how much money we bring in there. And we say, okay, we're going to budget for that. And you better provide for it because we're the trustees.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and you should be able to, even if it's.
If it only worked like that, though.
Well, but even over time, it should work like that. I can accept, this given from year to year, but overall, you should be able to expect more than, it shouldn't be one-time money, because it's like if we have, Jake knows the exact number, how many acres, and it should reasonably generate this number of board feet on average. You should be able to count on something close to that. And if you're not getting that, then it's either not being managed correctly or something else is going on.
I guess I would say I would hate to count on that because I don't necessarily have a lot of faith that it will be there on a regular basis.
So if possible, we'll talk more about this at the finance committee, because obviously the treasurer has a lot of input on helping us with sales tax and looking at some of these numbers you're talking about, as well as Brenda. So maybe we can explore a little bit more Friday while Jen is working on these, and I think she's going to participate on Friday as well, and then come back to you next Tuesday, and if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got other things to do on Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate your flexibility.
Nice vacation, Jen.
Yeah.
She probably already signed off Zoom like 5 minutes ago.
No, she's there. And she's really not on vacation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I used to zoom in from a travel trailer.
Hers is
And I was not on vacation, I can tell you that.
I agree. Well, hers is nicer than all of ours.
Yes,
It looks
yeah,
like.
it looks much nicer than.
At least that wasn't the first one.
Do we have
Okay, Solid Waste Director, Miss Ruby Irving, discussion regarding uncovered trash loads.
Thank you, Jen. And sorry for giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time.
Well, we're running a little ahead. How did that happen? Oh, I see why. Really?
Did we mess
Lynn
something
McClure
up?
was gonna be 25 minutes.
No, Lynn was scheduled
I
for
never
20.
Oh, is that the one that, oh, Lynn's was the one.
Yeah, Lynn was 25. I'm like, there's no way she's gonna go.
Oh, that's where it happened. Yeah. Oh, you never know. It's a guess.
Yeah, it's a
Oh.
gamble.
That's why you come early.
I do come early. That,
Although it's a good show.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need some entertainment.
Welcome to our show. I see you, you attend regularly.
Yes.
So did you want me to wait or just go ahead and get started?
No, go ahead. We can go ahead and get started.
So right now, we're kind of having a little bit of an issue with the Dallasport facility transfer station. Just the area in general has a lot of litter, and it has created some problems for some of the people around there that own cattle. To be specific about the most recent situation is Mr. Stevens' calf suffocated from a grocery bag, like a plastic grocery bag, and has tried to get payment for that calf from either myself or Republic Services. I was under the impression that it was Republic Services. However, they have directed him back to me or to the county. And so we're kind of, I don't know, like we're kind of in a teeter-totter kind of a thing, and it doesn't look like the problem is resolved. So we need to figure out how to resolve it.
Is Republic saying we're liable?
I wouldn't.
They're saying
no.
they're not liable.
Yeah, they're saying that they're not liable.
May I give them a quick update?
Yes, please do.
I did talk to the person who owned the calf, and mainly he was venting. You know, he's very frustrated with Republic Services, and somebody needs to be responsible. And you know, per him, Republic is basically saying, no, we don't know that's from the transfer station. It could be from Tidyman Road. But I went ahead and, yes, I went ahead and sent him a claim form. And he seemed to, you know, and he was very nice, and he vented, and he kept saying he was venting. I said, that's fine. And then I called Director Irving, and she vented too.
So basically, I'm looking for a little bit of guidance on where to go forward with this, because I do have documentation where we have actually done our part in picking up litter along that main thoroughfare and along Tidyman Road and around the transfer station. I think this year alone, we visited 3 times. Generally in a year, we might go out 3 or 4. So, I mean, we're way ahead of schedule in terms of how many times we can clean around there. So, I mean, I have all the documentation to show that we have held to our end of the bargain, and I'm still waiting for documentation, you know, from the other side. So the problem, one of the biggest problems out there is, of course, wind. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity to start thinking about how we might be able to come together and find a solution for that particular site, because that wind is not going to die down just because we're having problems with it. You know, so I think future plotting and ideas to how to combat that issue would be really wise. And in terms of the unsecured loads, Republic Services has increased their fees for out-of-county residents. We have a lot of people coming from Oregon without secured loads. That is a little bit of a problem. I also have, not on me, but we did do, as I stated in my last update, we had an unsecured load event where we were handing out cargo nets. And we have data from prior to that event on how many unsecured loads came into Dallasport and to the other, to Golden Dell transfer station. And then we have post data, which we have a couple more data points to put in, and then we'll be able to see how much that event had an impact on unsecured loads. So surprisingly enough, Dallasport was not the worst offender. So
What was?
Goldendale.
Oh.
Rude. So, I mean, but the data kind of varies depending upon the day. So, I mean, overall, it's,
Did you have a statistically significant sample size so that you could
Yeah.
say that this is enough?
yeah, it was significantly, it was significant. However, I got to figure out how to get some of the deviations out of it, some of the data errors, like we have one issue where an unsecured load and a somewhat secured load, and what that definition might be is kind of like, well, what's an unsecured load and what's not?
Right.
So there's viewer error. So we're trying to tighten that down for our next data analysis, so that we can have a really clear definition of what could be an unsecured and what's a somewhat unsecured. And then, of course, I had to throw in another deviation from that, and that is the enclosed vehicle, because it's very difficult to say that, if they had a truck, that they would use it and it would be secured. You can't really put that in there, and then use that as a data point of secured loads, if you see what I mean. Of course, that it kind of irritated a couple of people, but an enclosed vehicle, a lot of the people that come in with an enclosed vehicle, like an SUV or a PT Cruiser, is usually coming in and throwing recycling material into the material management boxes, right? So that gets counted in with that whole group of loads that come into the transfer station. So, I mean, there are some things that we need to kind of tighten up to try to figure out how to view some of that data. But I mean, overall, just in general, we do have some pretty good data.
So everybody's supposed to secure their load.
Yes.
And Republic doesn't want to fine people or anything. They say that's not our job to deal with it.
Right. However, the caveat to that is that the ordinance that we have states that there should be a $5 fee for unsecured loads before going into the transfer station. On the contract that we have with them, it is required that they follow all regulations and all ordinances, state, federal laws, period. It's, that's the law. I mean, that's part of the contract when the contract was signed. And I did send that in the email this morning that I sent out, just so that everybody could be on the same page with what the contract language is. And I sent out the ordinances like a week or two ago. So.
Okay. So theoretically, we have this $5 charge and they're in breach of contract because they're not enforcing said charge. Interesting. Complainant with the calf, where's his location, east-west of 97?
He's along Tidyman Road, that build out there. And this isn't, I mean, unfortunately, it's not the first incident.
Right across the street from it, right?
It's, well.
It's further.
I was gonna say right across the street is
the
granite
jail.
construction.
Yeah.
It's within that area.
Yeah.
And
So
I mean,
it's further down Tidyman Road.
Yes.
I mean,
So I think we have a couple of issues. I think we have a couple of different issues.
Mhm.
We have the cow issue first.
Yeah.
Which, I am conflicted as far as I know Mr. Stevens and there's no dispute that he has a dead calf.
Right.
And that, so he has a loss.
Mhm.
The issue is about who is responsible for that
Right.
loss.
And responsible for everyone that follows.
Right. And for everyone that follows, exactly. And so it's,
well, I mean,
I
up
can
to
see
this point-
Republic's perspective is,
Right. But up to this point, in the last 30 years or 20 years that the contract's been in place, I mean, how many things like this have they actually paid for?
I don't know.
Yeah. So. I don't know.
So, but I mean, I can see if if the plastic came off an unsecured load on Tidyman Road, if the trash came off of the transfer station, which there is, then they have liability as far as, I'm not sure how you would
Prove it.
Prove
The hard part is proving
So
who had the trash.
who had the trash.
Yeah.
The trash,
Out of the neighbor's yard.
it could have blown out of the neighbor's yard, and it is, I mean, I think that's gonna be really difficult to assign who's, I mean, because ultimately you are somebody is responsible, but I don't know how you
So,
figure out who that is in a way that you can prove.
right. All I can prove is that we're not the ones that are culpable, because I do have all of my records. I do have pictures over the last year or so of different sites that my litter crew has cleaned up at.
Right.
So I mean, like I have.
Which I would say
have
even
documentation.
that, I mean, I think that's really good, but I don't know that we would even be liable if we hadn't done litter pickup. Because ultimately the litter along the road actually belonged to somebody that broke the law when it came, either blew off their place, blew off their truck.
It wasn't ours until we picked it up.
Which was good. I mean, I got, you know, that we are trying to make it better, but if we failed and we had, you know, something that got through your net, I don't know that that means we're culpable.
Right.
And I guess, you know, Mr. Stevens can file a claim. Anybody can file a claim for anything, and it'll go through underwriting. But I think it's going to be difficult.
Right.
I just don't see a solution to this, and
Yeah.
I see Republic's perspective in, if they assume, then
Right.
what happens, you know,
So-
especially where it's actually not next door to the transfer station.
Yeah, so my hope is that this actually sparks an opportunity for public services in my department to be able to create some better.
I've never seen them in here. It's in this part. He leased it from Hazel. Which they own that too, but I never saw it. So it could be. I don't have any evidence. So that is possible. That would be a
I
little
mean,
more.
if it died right in here, I'd
Right.
be like, because
That would be
I
different.
was disgusted.
Yeah, it is. It's a problem.
So, yeah, so.
That's the other issue.
Yeah, so, you know, like my hope from this whole situation, I mean, it'd be a win-win if, you know, we could actually start working some post-COVID stuff and, you know, start working on being able to control some of the issues down there. Like I said, the number one issue down there is wind.
Right.
You know, I mean, when it starts blowing at 10 miles an hour, it feels like 40 miles an hour whipping through there, so.
It does.
Did you just say you want to control the wind?
Yeah.
I do.
You never rain my ideas.
No. Controlling the weather would be better.
I'm assuming, I don't know what, and that would be maybe a legal question. Again, anybody can file a claim against the county.
Yeah.
I'm assuming anybody can file a claim against Republic too. And that would be
Proving liability on
Have you talked to
anybody
Q
is a
about
whole other matter.
About who?
Have you talked to Q about this?
So he was actually on the email that I sent this morning with the with contract language. You know, so I, you know, like Mr. Stevens has tried to reach me now 7 times today, and I have 3 messages from him. So,
I think Ruby's looking for she wants some direction.
Yeah.
Because she
it's
needs
a
to be able to have a
lot.
response
It's a lot.
to be done.
So,
Is Q on? Mr. Prosecutor, do you have any thoughts on this matter?
This is really the first time I'm hearing about it. I saw some sort of email this morning without some attachments, but some sort of garbage bag got away and harmed some I don't understand how this is taking up time for a county employee. How is this a county issue?
So let me backtrack to the beginning of this particular situation, which was the middle of last month. I was contacted by Mr. Stevens regarding the dead calf, and I directed him to Republic Services. He did not get the responses that he wanted from Republic Services and continued to contact me. And it has kind of escalated. I thought that Republic Services would handle it, but it just keeps coming back. So last week, Mr. Stevens had contacted me and I mean, was I mean, hot-headed, like any of us, I think would if we lost, livestock, but, so I mean, the issue was not handled and, so here we are a month later on a second Monday in a row, and it's a problem because it's not being settled in the manner that Mr. Stevens would like. And, there seems to be some disconnect on where I stand and where Republic Services stands, in terms of, legal stuff. So anyway, that's why you were BC'd on the email, so that we could at least get that ball rolling, because it certainly feels like it's going, somewhere. So I didn't think that it would get to this point. I thought it would actually be handled when I passed it over.
Well,
to
meaning,
Services,
was
yeah.
your assumption that Republic would just write Mr. Stevens
Well,
a check?
at least just figure it out, work with him or something, like, he's got pictures, he has the stuff that he needs, that he feels like he's got a pretty strong case for. I thought I'd be taken out of the equation, and last week I
I
wasn't.
see even if you got pictures of the bag down the throat and vets and whatever, you gotta prove where that bag came from.
Well, yeah,
And
therein lies,
you can lay blame as to.
yeah, therein
prove where
lies the
bag
problem.
came from.
Right, so, but I'm now passing it off to get some direction, because like I said, I thought that this would be settled by now, and I don't want to be here. So I don't want to have to deal with this, but it's in my lap, so.
Mr. Prosecutor, do you think we have any potential liability for this calf?
Well, I would have to know more facts, but based on the conversation I'm hearing right now, I'm scratching my head as to why this is a county issue at all.
Yeah.
Because whenever somebody has a problem, they want to come to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep pockets.
And I have a not an open door policy, but I have a pretty, like, I want county residents to be able to have a voice and, to be validated for where they're at. So,
I get it, but I look at it as a county issue. The only thing we could possibly do to help this situation is pick up more trash
so
than we do. That's our job.
So legally,
But you can only do so much
Yeah.
picking up near a transfer station with the grant you have.
so here we are legally, since you asked the question. The inspections that we've done for the last year or so have consistently been in need of a wind fence and having issues down there at that particular site. And nothing has been resolved on that. So I have all of my inspection reports. I have emails regarding this particular situation. And then I have the contract language regarding, what their role and what the responsibility is with that particular transfer station, or with all the transfer stations.
And you find it in the contract that they should be
Yep.
putting up a fence.
Yeah, their fence has not been legal or appropriate for that particular area. And, I've been requesting it to be replaced for quite some time.
I do think those are two different issues, though. I don't disagree.
Right.
I think there are deficiencies at the transfer station, and we need to ensure contract
Yes.
compliance. And that they do, but the relationship between issues at the transfer station and the and a dead calf, they're not necessary. You would have to prove that there was some connection from one to the other. And then again, we would not have any liability. It would be Republic, and this would be an issue. This would be for the courts as far as they can file a civil claim. I'm assuming. I don't want to. I would defer to counsel. But we've always been told you can sue anybody for anything. And if you can go make your case that your transfer station that you were not doing it killed my cow, you need to pay me, compensate me for that.
Right. So with Republic Services, then turning it around and putting it onto the county as a county issue, that's where it kind of came back into my lap, and that's why. That's why we're here.
I know the county counsel's on the phone, but as risk manager, it seems that this gentleman thinks there's a claim against the county. He can file a claim processed through our insurance
Yeah.
company. As commissioners, I'm not sure until it works its way through the
Right.
insurance company, see if there's coverage for it or it's denied or accepted, then and until he files that, he's almost circumventing that process by coming directly to the commissioners. So maybe there's
And
a
I'm
step.
assuming the director would be, it would be correct to just refer whoever it is to file a claim. You're out of it.
Right. It would,
And then let it go through,
It
it
would go
would
to-
get filed and it'll go to the just like any, I mean, we get lots of claims get filed for things and
That's where I think the
Some-
cap issue should go, but I feel like
Right.
we need to-
I think the litter issue is different. That's
Right,
I
but we
think the
need to
cap
address that.
issue, that if he thinks there's a claim against the county, he needs to file a claim. And
It's just that it's all been lumped in together.
I know, and it shouldn't be. And just because Republic says it's yours, you can say, I'm not taking the CAF part. But we are going to talk about the trash blowing out of around at the transfer station, and we need
And the
to,
$5 fee that's.
and the $5 fee to make compliance so that when people are on their way to the transfer station, their stuff isn't blowing out and then getting in somebody's field and killing their cat. Potentially.
Yeah, we've tried to take the easier, softer way out of it. And I think with the unsecured load events that we had and are going to have, I think it's gonna make a big difference. But we're gonna need some kind of follow-up and some kind of consequence past that outreach and education part of it. So this is a perfect opportunity to be able to say, hey, this is a good.
How do we
place
get
to work
them
together.
to enforce their contract and charge the $5?
Well, it's not in the contract, it's in our ordinances, but it's in the contract that
But they have to follow
that
ours.
they have to abide by all of our ordinances.
Is that something we need to have the prosecutor look at to send a
If it's
letter?
not
or-
if it's not in the contract, the $5 is our ordinance, correct?
It is in our ordinance, but by law, we have to have that ordinance. It's a state law.
Right.
We have
right,
to have
but
that
it's-
ordinance.
That's in our ordinance. So in essence, it would be us charging the $5. And do we delegate that to Republic? And is that, if that's not in the contract, how would we delegate that to Republic?
They don't want
But
If
how-
they don't want to do it.
However, but just to reiterate, it's in the contract that they have to abide by all laws, regulations, ordinances that apply to their facilities. And in the ordinance, it states that the $5 fee has to be charged prior to them being let into the transfer station. So you're right, like maybe we could stand there and we could give the tickets right there at the gate. And I had my litter crew supervisor going over to the sheriff's department or whatever to try to, figure out how we can go about doing that. So I mean, there's some movement on that part, but without a ticket book, and a badge number, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like
an
I'm
unsecured
open.
Load ticket, that's not a $5 fee ticket.
You're right. It's a
But essentially,
$249 fee.
if Republic is
$129.
allowing people to dump without paying their $5 first, they're in breach of contract.
The other thing we also have to think about is that this is code and we've suspended code enforcement. It's an ordinance,
We haven't suspended contract enforcement.
But it's not in the contract.
it's not in the contract.
The contract says that they will follow all state,
All
federal,
laws,
and local
regulations.
ordinances, and
Yep.
that ordinance is suspended right now.
And
I mean, to be fair, Public Services and myself have had conversations on how we might be able to mitigate this issue at the gate. Like have them be turned around. However, some of our transfer stations don't have the room to do that. Or, given a load cover. I mean, we've had
Well, and
conversations.
given
it's just
the,
trying
I
to figure
think
out how to implement it.
sensitivity of, the earlier conversation, 6 months ago about verifying people were in county
Yes.
versus out of county,
Right.
and how much pushback there was on people, and then we're gonna have the, people
Yes.
as far
So
as, unless we have a consistent,
And each person, every
What's
load that goes in there,
unsecured?
what's unsecured and who
Right.
gets to make that determination. And that's putting a lot on these guys if you're just standing there, that are just trying to accept the
job.
trash as
Yeah.
fast as
Without getting
possible.
yelled at.
They're working more with less. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So I get it.
well, I would be curious, and did you forward the ordinance and stuff, so
I did a couple of weeks
to,
ago.
to the prosecuting attorney?
No, but I will.
If you could do that, because I would be curious so that we can have a conversation, because
Let's say
as far as
something
what's
like a little bit of a
enforceable.
legal review
Yeah,
on
as far as what's enforceable and what's not. because it's, to my knowledge,
Yeah, this
it
is just
has
a
never
small
been
piece, this
enforced.
is a small piece in a big picture.
You know,
You
it
know,
was there, it used to be because the lore on it a long time ago was, yeah, the $5 is like, if you came with an unsecured load, you just bought a cover. And it was like, it was mandatory, and it just, because it's like, you know, you didn't get turned around. It was like, you can do it, but here's your cover and it's mandatory. You just bought a cover. And you can bring it back next time, or if you don't, next time you're gonna buy another, we'll sell you another one.
The easiest thing I think would be is the $5, forget that. If you show up and you have an unsecured load and you can tell stuff's been blown off of it, you pay out of county prices. That's a heck of a lot more than $5.
they can't, by the contract, because of the contract, they can't charge in county.
Well, they keep wanting to renegotiate this contract.
Yeah, well,
Okay, well, I think as far as on the litter stuff,
Yeah.
that's something we can
well,
definitely
the
work
litter
on.
and.
As far as Mr. Stevens, and I would
Laws.
direct him to file a claim, and then it goes through the process.
And then prosecutor for legal review, and then we might need to put a little pressure on Republic to upgrade their facilities. And put up-
Well, that I think, because I think
Like
their
3
fence is
different issues
inadequate.
there.
There is, and the, you know, and it is most acute at Dallasport. I don't know that there's as much of it, there's not, as far as stuff
BZ.
blowing at BZ or in Goldendale,
Goldendale has a problem, but because it's like in my purview, like I've even been out there to clean, you know, like when I was doing load counts and stuff, I've gone out there and pulled the plastic off the fences and, you know, stuff in the ditches, and that was blowing all around out there. So I mean, that's.
Is there any talk, I mean, not, I don't even want to bring it up, but like they do at the landfill, like when the wind gets to a certain point that they shut down?
I would think that they should, but the problem is like with
Geez, we
Dallasport.
shut down here about 6 months.
Well, that's what I don't know what that.
With Dallasport, they have.
Yeah, I
They have not only do they have,
Sorry, I was just trying to problem solve.
not only do they have residential coming in there,
Yeah,
but they also
inside
have, all of the commercial stuff coming in there, and you can't just close down, you know, when the garbage trucks are coming in to dump.
Yeah.
Because they don't
That's
stop,
impractical.
they don't stop running.
Well, especially if you have not
it-
exhausted all of your
Yeah, Dallasport is
technology
completely inefficient,
fixes.
and it's just not, it's just, the way our county has grown, and especially now that it's really growing, like, these transfer stations aren't adequate. Or at least won't be adequate within 5 years.
I've seen it make some good changes recently out in BZ where, you know, for the longest time, they have 2 boxes, 4 spots, and they only ever ran 2. And on a Saturday.
BZ was not supposed to be a manned site,
What site?
a manned site.
Oh, a manned, it was gonna be.
Just drop off.
Drop off?
Yeah.
You're on your honor?
Don't follow the box.
Don't fall in the box and mail us a check.
That's how it was.
Everybody's in
brought up.
county.
That's how it was started.
Well, it was always manned though, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like not a transfer station, but it's a full-fledged drop box. You know, so they have 2 people on, they have to have 2 people on at all times rather than
Yeah.
just one.
Yeah.
So do they not drop
It wasn't
the,
supposed to be.
Hmm?
In the contract, it wasn't supposed to be.
When it first started getting designed, it was only supposed to be a drop off. So I mean, I don't know, like I'll look back at the contract or back at the plans and stuff that they had. You know,
so I'm
kinda cool.
sorry,
Yeah,
what was?
We got kind of off track there,
Yeah.
but,
What was your?
Oh, my point was, is that, as you said, you know, as we've continued to grow, they only ever use 2 vehicles at a time, 1 spot, you know, you used to dump right in it. Now you can't dump in it. But like on a Saturday morning, they'll open up 3 or 4 spots and have twice as much traffic through it. It makes a huge difference. So they've been trying to work to make it more efficient, so you're not sitting there for an hour.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, they can't do that at Dallasport because of the commercial part of it, you know, the dropping off of the.
That's what really slows them up there.
Oh my
It's not
gosh,
'cause the truck,
tremendously.
the big things come in and then it's like you're shut down for 20 minutes. And again, that's, you know, that's part of the business.
More than 20 minutes.
I was 45 the last
Yeah.
time. I saw it going in front of me and I was like, I knew I should have passed them.
So anyway, you know, like it's a multi-layered problem, and it's gonna take a multi-layered solution, but.
I
at
keep
least
from
this
the
is
other
the
way.
beginning.
And I secure my loads.
Yeah, you better.
I do.
I do feel for Mr. Stevens. I mean, common sense would say it probably came from here with a high confidence based on how it looks around there. but it could have came off of Highway 97 and blown with the east winds we've had. You know, there's a lot of different things that could happen. And I
Exactly.
definitely understand his frustration. My problem is sadly, it's
The culpability.
it's
and
not
who's got
my
it.
problem.
It's, yeah.
Well, and to me, it sets a precedent. Now you're taking responsibility for everyone that ever happens from here on out. I'm not.
Right, yeah. With that being said, like I totally understand Republic Services point of view.
And they're probably doing the same thing. And we don't
Well,
want
that
to-
is, like, I know I'm not culpable because I've got the records to prove it, for the most part. But
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
and I
So
I would direct
so move it
Mr.
on.
Stevens to file a claim with the county if he feels like he can, and it goes through
Okay.
there, and that's
That's the answer.
thank
that's
you.
the answer, and you don't, as far as the other, that's the end of it.
And send him Dave. Dave's his commission.
Yeah. He called me.
Oh, he's. Mhm.
Uh-huh.
I have a call transfer switch on my
Thank you
phone
for your
now,
comment.
and it just goes right.
Here it is.
Yeah, thank you so much. I
All right.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm. Oh, you gotta go get out of here.
Okay, consent.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with 6 items.
Well, second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent. Any discussion on any of those? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Start on those.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $79,891.20 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending July 6th, 2021.
I will second the motion.
I think you have a motion and a second on the bills. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, come on up. New business.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
You may recall, we put out an RFP for a audiovisual system for the new chambers, Commissioners' chambers in the new building, as well as possibly providing Polycom video systems for the meeting rooms. We added that on as the proposal were based on the VOCC chambers, but the other ones were a potential. We got 4, we rejected 1, as you may recall. Avidex is the one we've spent some time with. They weren't the most expensive, nor were they the low cost. And under this type RFP, we're not required to take the low bidder. The team was Commissioner Anderson and Lee and I and the IT manager. I think we all liked Avidex's style and how they approached the issue and their proposal. And we had a couple of conference calls with them and explored some changes. I think, and you'll see instead of I think Commissioner Anderson's updated you in the past, as opposed to desk-mounted, table-mounted microphones, it's a ceiling mic like we have here, and a TV for the audience so that they can see what's going on, because the TVs were facing in. So this way the audience can see what's being projected. So on version 3, that's the one we present today for recommendation for approval. Gordy's wants to get somebody in there as soon as possible. The farther they get along in the building, the more expensive it may be if any changes have to be made to the room. So on behalf of the group, and Lee's here and Commissioner Anderson's here, we're recommending approval of the Avidex. They are also facing rising costs. I was talking to Jeff Rowe this morning, and even the county things that we can get, some things aren't available, and things that we get are expensive. IT equipment is getting expensive like everything else. So locking this in and getting them moving forward. The funding for this is in the loan for the building, or it's in the construction budget for the building. So I'd answer any other questions, or Commissioner Anderson or Lee is here as well.
I have one. You sat through this, and I know originally you didn't like the number that was presented, but you sat through it, and this is the number that I see before me. So you've looked over it, you believe the items that are on there are items we need, and that's you're. good
So
with that
based
now?
on those original, what we asked for originally, it wasn't super detailed. And a lot of the systems that were offered weren't going to be workable for Lee, while Lee's trying to do everything else. So the idea is we wanted something simple that would work, so that we could sit here like this. If he says something in one of those face mics, it wouldn't be on there. Those things work pretty darn good based on what I've seen on our videos. We all speak loudly enough that it can pick us up. And then on top of that, we also changed it for the PA system in there. So these guys are going to take over a portion of that. So that's going to reduce costs elsewhere. So the other thing is then we have all the polycoms that we added to it. So when you put it all together, we're getting something. And I think we're going to do the base maintenance plan for 1 year for the first year. But after that, the system should be simple enough that we can reduce that cost, and none of it's proprietary information, where a lot of the other systems, you save 10,000 here, you pay an extra 10,000 every year. And so this is
work without this.
Right,
Yeah.
that's kind of why I'm asking the budget.
And
You look
it
through
only
those
lasts for
items and
4
then-
years, right? And then it's, the technology's obsolete, you won't deal with it. The way we're planning to design this is that everything's housed on, like our Zoom, and everything's all together. And so then as the technology grows, we won't have to replace everything.
Commissioner, didn't we change the, how it's seen instead of having two systems, it's all in one screen?
Oh, that was the other big thing is that you're going to have the two separate systems, like how we have it now. We have two systems, right? There's this thing facing that way. There's that one facing this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine those streams. And then we can just have the Lee up all the time. So it's recording and it's just these two streams. And that's always on there. And so then when you hit the record button, it's always that. Everything's handy dandy, nice and easy. So, and then
How are the
it's simple
TVs
for
going to work? Originally, it was 2 swing outs. Is the one for the audience going to be behind us or
Nope,
something?
it's going to be, so we're sitting here, it's going to be over in the corner by the windows, and it's going to come down so that, because that distance, that's a long skinny room, you still couldn't see it if you're in the back, but where you're
So
sitting.
it'll be like over there and they'll just turn sideways and look
Yeah.
at this.
Well,
way.
then the concern they had is they have to comply. We have to comply with ADA. And one of the TVs on a swivel mount would have partially blocked the ramp to the commissioners.
Right.
So it wouldn't
The
have been,
other-
so it wouldn't have been
okay.
ADA accessible. Plus the camera that doesn't do much for the audience if the TVs are pointed in without one pointing to the.
And honestly, we're going to be looking.
We're
at
gonna be
everything
looking
Right.
here,
here.
we're not gonna be looking.
The other thing I want to make sure we have, and I don't know whether you already did it, is ADA compliant hearing.
Yes.
So
That's a
we
good-
have a pod of 10 or 12 earphones we can pass out if we're doing a public hearing and somebody
Yes.
can't hear.
That we're required to do.
As well as a microphone, wireless mic,
Yeah.
in case there's people
Right.
testifying
Right.
and it's a
They don't
large
have to
room.
step all the way to the desk.
Right. Yeah.
Right, okay.
So
With those two things, I'm.
all said and done, it's a fair chunk of change, but I see it being cheaper in the long run. Because we won't have to replace it for years.
Okay, well, I will accept the recommendation of the committees, certainly.
Unless Lee disagrees, you're
Yeah.
welcome, you were on the committee too.
I think it's a lot of dollars for what I can see we're getting, but I'm not an IT person either. And I'm relying on IT Director Van Cleve and Commissioner Anderson. All I have to do is learn how to use it, and I can learn how to do anything. So if this is the best thing, it's gonna meet all the ADA qualifications.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
It's not just for me, it's for future. Hopefully it's gonna last us for a long time and with upgrades as needed and be very efficient and do a good job.
And so the other thing you have to think about is like, this is as simple and sweet as you can get with us right here and how we're doing this cheap, right? But as soon as we speak and it goes into there and then it goes into the speakers, that gets real expensive so that it doesn't sound like an echo chamber anymore. And
Well, and the
so,
other kicker is that room is so much bigger that if we have a public hearing that people show up to, we have to be able to make sure the people in the back know what's going on. can hear what's going on, can see what's going on, have earphones if needed. So it's,
And I think that's part of
it's
their,
for the public good, even though it's kind of weird to say so.
and part of their expertise will be balancing the sound in the room. You know, it's a lot of glass and so being able to balance the sound so that wherever you're setting, you can hear it as well as any other place is part of the expertise.
It's a big dollar, but you're doing it in the spirit of transparency.
It's a good, I
So
mean, it's an
that's
investment.
your answer to that.
Okay.
And I'd like to thank Commissioner Anderson and Lee for their time on that, through that process as well.
So do we actually have the agreement?
Yes,
Okay. So we need to take action.
it's in the sign.
It's on the sign folder.
uh,
You want it on,
agenda.
do you want a motion?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
please.
I'd read it to you.
Okay.
I can't get.
You can't get on there with the motion.
What's it gonna cost me to
Accept
get
the
on the
agreement
phone
between-
RSA thing? You know, you're doing it. I know you're doing it.
Habitats Industrials
I'm in the beta
LLC.
I think Commissioner, Chris
Oh, I'm awake.
trying to make a motion.
Somebody bail me out.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, he's got booted off.
Yeah.
They have a little blue sheet today.
No, go ahead. You were doing fine.
Interrupted me.
Again, I wasn't listening to you.
Yeah.
I see how this works, people. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the agreement and approve the agreement between Abidex Industrials LLC and Klickitat County Human Resources Administrative Services Department to install and maintain the Board of County Commissioners Meeting Room Audio Visual System at a cost of $80,500. This agreement is executed upon a signature and has been approved by the prosecuting attorney.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the agreement between Avidex and the county. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Brings us to board pending.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry that took so long.
Anything
My
you'd like
time is your
us
time.
to- Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have Mochi, don't we, during board
She's,
pending?
yeah, she'll be on Zoom.
And I gave you 2 copies. I don't know. if you-
Oh, I probably didn't pass.
But one is a 2-page copy and one isn't, so.
Oh, I can flip.
Is this the one you wrote or is this?
No, that was their stuff.
Oh,
I just need direction when we get there, so if you want to do that now or later, what do you want to do?
I don't believe the PA has signed off on that second one, or the planning director,
Oh, okay.
the changes that were made.
I weren't any changes
Oh, okay,
that I'm aware of.
okay.
So who,
Planning director and Dave McClure.
Okay.
So I guess I would say, my hesitance is 1.6. Which is the findings of fact that gets down to that we find the existing county ordinances, policies, regulations, processes are adequate. So the reason I could not just agree and sign this is because I have a different opinion of that. My opinion is that I rescinded the moratorium because if we're not going to do ordinances by law, we shouldn't have the moratorium. If we're not going to take action, we need to rescind the moratorium. And the board was not going to take action. The problem is I don't agree with these. So I was kind of trying to work with Mr. McClure and Mochi to come up with some kind of something that I could sign with you gentlemen. But with that in there, I can't get on board with because I don't believe that. So I guess I'm here to say if you guys have some kind of wording you can put in there that we can all jump on, I'm good to jump on. If not, you might end up signing that. If it's the way, if it stays the way it's worded, you two will be end up signing that one on your own.
So you've had a week or 2 weeks of looking at this. Did you come up with your own wording that you would feel comfortable?
Well, it would be so generic because it would essentially be because by state law, the moratorium shouldn't be continued because we're not going to take action. I can't stand behind we have adequate ordinances and whatnot in place, because I don't actually think we do. So that's my caveat, is when you list those 4 or 5 things in there, because we find that said laws, regulations, processes, ordinances, and policy directing provide all that, I don't think that's not my gist. I mean, if I thought we had all that, I would have never voted for the moratorium in the first place.
So again, Mochi's taken two or three cracks at this, right?
I don't think so. I think this was the original they came up with.
Mochi, are you there? Dave, Glover?
I met with them and we kind of went over it and I couldn't think of anything, and then I had to run off to, I think it was a Board of Health meeting. And then I looked at it over the weekend and essentially came up with nothing in my own words, other than like what I explained to you guys, why I voted to remove the moratorium.
Okay, I do see planning has unmuted.
So I was hoping you guys would have a good answer, unless you want to get real generic and line item veto that entire line.
Okay, I see your boxes are lighting up, but I'm not hearing anything.
I was deferring to Mochi.
Oh, I see. Tried to throw your lit box over.
All right, what's the question? I'll see if I can help.
The only thing I can think of is if we change it that we find there is no legal need to continue the moratorium, because that would just be a completely general statement. I can get behind that statement, but that doesn't itemize the itemization that you have in there.
Mochi, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There you are. Does everybody see a chance and understand what Dan's trying to get at? And do you think we can come to some sort of wording that will make Commissioner Christopher happy?
I would say the only thing that comes to mind is that, in 1.6, leave everything it is to the third or fourth line, start process, ordinance, and policy direction, and then put a period there. You don't need to find anything after that. And then after that,
policy direction.
it says the Board of County Commissioners reviewed the issues associated with commercial/industrial solar projects that are subject to conditional use permits. Subject to the conditional use process in light of public testimony received, existing federal, state laws and regulations, and existing land use processes, ordinances, and policy directions, and just put a period. That's what you did. And then you would go to 1.7, continuation of the moratorium adopted under this, ordinance XYZ is not necessary.
I say that leaves essentially no findings of fact. But unless you come up,
Because where he was reading was in my 1.7.
Well, mine 1.6 looks different.
I see how you are. You gave me something different.
Oh, you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Surprise.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
draft out of that must have been stuck to the bottom of the other.
Well, where'd this come from?
This was what he passed me.
That's what they gave me. I think.
Okay, now I'm on the same
That might
page.
have been what was here when we first discussed.
Oh, maybe, and it was just.
I told you there were-
To me for something.
I told you there were multiple versions of
Maybe
this.
that. I don't even know what that one says.
Well, it says basically the same thing, just in different bullets. That's what had me, okay.
So he's saying end at decision period.
Okay, so what it says is we
We reviewed it.
reviewed all this, and then we're saying continuation of the moratorium adopted is not necessary for preservation.
Right.
So that's as general as.
That's as open as possible, because it's really not saying why we did it. Or why we reversed it. It's not saying anything.
Well, Does that work for you?
Totally fine. I just didn't know that was capable. Happy as a clam.
Okay, Mike.
If that works.
Let's see, the existing federal state.
Let Dave catch up because he's been.
Yeah, I've been on the wrong
for an hour.
Processes.
What are you here for?
The policy direction.
Keep wondering that.
I was hoping to catch up to Dave before he left for a minute or two.
Okay, good.
Maybe bring him up to what we talked about last week a little bit.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That does make it more general.
What did we talk about last week? A long time ago.
You said it out
Yeah.
For the record, I will mention that nowhere in here does it say anything about batteries.
No.
Oh,
I-
now I
was curious
remember that.
where that came from. Thin air.
Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
live with that. That's good.
All right, Mr. McClure, I'm fine if you want a period after policy decision.
Direction.
Policy direction.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the ordinance number to be determined by Lee for the moratorium on commercial industrial solar projects subject to a conditional use permit with
As
the-
amended.
As amended
As amended.
in the room.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance lifting the moratorium on commercial industrial solar projects subject to a conditional use permit process. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Just for the record, it doesn't say anything about batteries.
That's what I just.
Oh,
I was looking for it.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that's why you gave me this one.
I told you that it's just in your copy.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that one. It was handed to me from somebody.
Okay.
any other?
Any other pending or
Oh,
pending?
actually, time out. Yeah, give me a second to look at my scribbles.
We did all mine this morning, so.
Golden Dale Fire Ladder Truck. So after talking to the fire chief, the way I remember that being presented to us is they wanted like 450,000 and then they wanted like 250 from the city of Goldendale. He's saying that it wasn't, they want 225 from us and 225 from the city of Goldendale. Because the ladder truck is about 420 for about a 2002, 2004 truck that's not super high miles. But when they don't come up very often, so when it does come up, he needs to be able to make the move if that's a direction we're going. So I guess I'd say he's looking for guidance that essentially if the 225 number is not amenable to us, then what number might be, and was hoping we might be able to have some discussion to lead them down what avenue they need to go down.
Are they required to have a ladder truck?
Not that I'm aware of. I hate to answer that question. I can't answer that question.
Do you know?
I don't. It came up when we were working on the design for the building. And Larry Bellamy said they had a discussion and he would let us know. And the issue never was raised again. So
Other than the fire chief, multiple times.
So
I hate to answer that question. I mean, I can have him come in and do a presentation if you're interested.
Before I give $250,000, you're darn right.
Well, I get it. That's what I'm hoping I get some kind of a
Consider
guidance.
I would say for
Are we not
multiple
gonna move on
exits
this?
on
Are we?
opposite sides of the building.
And if we're not gonna move on it, then that's fine, but we need to come to some determination what we're gonna do, if anything, and if there is a dollar amount, what potential is it? Do you want a presentation? Do you not want a presentation? Because it doesn't matter. That's why I'm sitting before you.
I mean, I would rather turn one of those windows into one of the fire exits on the third floor for people.
I have one of those on my second floor.
Yeah.
Rolled up under my desk, little Jacob's ladder.
I would say for me, I would need to see if there was evidence or something that showed that the construction of our building created like they had to have something, I would be willing to talk, if we caused the issue, then we should make good on it. But understanding that if that is really true, it should have been identified during the permitting process, just like all the other requirements are. And so I suspect that it isn't. But if it is, if they can show me, then I would be willing to talk about sharing in the cost. But if it's not something they have to have, it's just something they want, I think I'm going to be hard pressed, because it's, we've got 15 fire districts out there that have all kinds of really legitimate things that they want.
I mean, we're building a 3-story in White Salmon apartment complex right now.
Yeah.
And they don't.
We are?
Huh?
We're not. Oh yeah, we didn't tell you about that.
It's news to me.
Yeah, it's
We
affordable
are.
housing. And we're
It's
fixing
affordable. We
it
got it all done
We
now.
are.
We fixed it down there.
Gordy, what is the height of this building compared to the height of that building? Do you know, or can you email me those details?
I'll email it to you, yeah.
So that would be, that'd be my response, is if
they have to have this by fire code or insurance purposes for the area or something like that, is what you're gonna say.
right, if we created a hardship or some requirement, if we created a requirement, we should be liable for that requirement.
So the message you want me to pass on is, if they believe we've created a hardship, come forth and have a presentation.
Yeah.
If not, speak to your city.
Yeah, because it's just,
Okay? Is that where you're at?
You heard.
Yeah.
You reiterated it really.
yeah, I think that's the same point of view. That's what we're saying.
Then Gordy, give me those numbers so I can at least have some, because I'm curious, if that's 6 inches shorter than this building. Granted, you're not really, I guess it kind of comes down to where the windows are on the second floor. That's where you're going to be offloading people.
Yeah.
The windows on the third floor there could be higher than the windows
Do
on the
those
second
windows
floor
any of
here.
them open?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they would smash them out and put the ladder right up
Yeah,
against them, offload everybody on that third
Climb
floor.
up there about 6 feet.
Because they're not going up there with a ladder to take people off that third floor. They would have to, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you really have a meeting with Steve Gilmore last week?
Next week.
I talked to him last week.
Wednesday at 1:00 p.m.
Yeah, he called me.
I thought you weren't working over it.
No, I said I lied.
I saw that on there.
Yeah. No, I did. And it was mostly about the cow issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
How did your meeting with resource stewards go? Jay McLaughlin?
Oh, no, that was good. It was a big giant tour that covered pretty much everything under the sun. No, that was good.
It was a good gather, right? You learned a lot?
Do what?
You learned a lot?
I don't know if I'd say learned a lot, but learned some. I think it was good. He got to see where I am on the issues, which kind of gelled where he was on the issues. So it's an ally thing and not an enemy thing.
That's good.
And then we had what do they call it? The new Reds meeting up at the observatory last week. Essentially, it's an economic development thing, which David in here. They're trying to push through the hydrogen heating of the hospital and the pool and school, and we was talking about this a year or two ago. The hospital's pushing it, and they're bringing in a whole, I guess I'd say, federal grant committee task force into the county that they hope to do in September, that would present this big package of street improvements and water, wastewater facility improvements and all that stuff in the region. MCAT is involved. I think MCAT might even start to take the lead on this thing. It's being rushed pretty quickly. So that was a big thing at the observatory last week.
I went through this like a decade ago when we were did some tours over in Europe, and it wasn't hydrogen based. It was all pellet fuel based.
Right, yeah.
And I think they
Biomass.
created 2 or 3 of
Biomass,
them in Oregon.
Did you go tour those things over there?
Which ones? I didn't go on the one in Europe.
Because
but,
that's apparently where this started, is Gina went on some tour of some bio,
was that her trip with Hillary France to
I
Sweden
don't
or
know,
whatever?
but it was second party information. And that's what kind of started this whole hydrogen heating, sharing community project list. That's now on the radar because it's a green energy push, and so everybody's trying to throw other projects into the same wheelhouse. And it's just starting, but yeah, Dave, I'm sure will give us an update, because normally this takes way longer to get all this kind of codified and wrapped into a nice little package to make a presentation. But it needs done this budget year, not next budget year. The only time we can get on the calendar for all these federal people to come here and listen to the projects to possibly give grants is this year in September.
And Gina got some money for it too.
So it's
right in the legislative session.
it's being quickly fast tracked, and they were hoping that the county would help with a little community development dollars to help pay for a I can't remember the name of the group that was up there that was helping push the thing, to do a lot of the legwork to get the pretty little bow ties put on things to present the package.
If I could jump in a little bit here, this is Dave.
Good job, sir.
Yes, they're going to be putting together what they call a REDS, and as Commissioner Christopher indicated, it would be bringing all of these various funding agencies in to look at, more of a regional suite of projects and try to get the different funding agents to lined up behind. This is a kind of a project I can fund this, I can fund this kind of a project, and then build some momentum to get things implemented. It sounds like a really neat idea. Some of my challenges that they being KVH right now, sort of spearheading this thing, looking for 35,000 from the county, and right now they're asking for $0.09. And I'm having a little bit of a problem with that because of the breadth of projects. That $0.09 are for funding public facilities that support economic development. And the suite of projects to improve Goldendale they're looking at is a bit broad. I'm afraid we'll run into some issues potentially with the restricted uses of that fund. I checked with Lee this morning. We do have, in round numbers, 79,000 in community development funding, and I would suggest that would be a safer route rather than trying to shoehorn this broad suite of projects. If they're just looking to try to market that district heating project of the hospitals, I think that would fit under the 0.09. But once it got so broad to include looking at housing and that sort of thing, we're outside the envelope.
It's essentially a giant package with that's the icing on the top of the cake. Right? Project. Like I said, they have water lines, they have sewer lines, they have, Main Street revitalization, they have a splash pad. I mean, anybody that wants to essentially come to this thing and hope that some federal government will give them a grant is kind of what it is. Apparently they just did this down in the Dalles or John Day, sorry. And they got $6 million or something down there.
Wasn't that with the revitalization of the mill site though too?
It did everything. It did greenhouses, it did hydroponics down there.
But it's on the old mill site, right?
Oh, it's all over the community.
Oh.
So essentially they have a little bow on the top of the cake, but they want to make sure that you have all this far reaching stuff too. So anyway, I know they were talking about $0.09. I never thought $0.09 qualified, which is why I was saying community development dollars.
So can I ask, is anybody else putting any cash in?
This was like Thursday, the first thing, and they're in a hurry. So Dave?
I was going to say the draft application I saw was that the hospital's bringing 170,000 to the project.
Okay.
And what's the overall cost they're expecting?
Oh, I don't have that application. Let me see if I can find the application here.
It's actual.
205,000. They're looking for 35 from the county, 170 from the state of Washington. I believe those dollars are associated with 3,040,000 that Representative Mossbrucker got put into the capital budget this year. This project.
So the GINA money, is that for construction or is that for design?
Design.
I have not seen the full, I saw some of the language in the bill, but it was, it wasn't specific. Supposedly 170 is earmarked for feasibility studies and stuff like that, but I have not seen the details, and I don't know that I believe they may not have the grant agreement with the Department of Commerce in place yet, so I can't speak to the details. I just got what they put in their application here.
But they were hoping that because they're on such a tight window with this, that if we were gonna do it and you wait until the end of July to have the economic development meeting and get the sign off, and then you wait another week to get, this is gonna happen in 12 weeks from last week. If we take 6 weeks signing a document that says, okay, here can have the money, now they only have 6 weeks to do the project. So they were hoping we could get a little fast tracking. If we're gonna do it, fast track it, because every week is a lost week when you're on a 12-week, now 11-week.
So the $3 million, the 175 that they're kicking in is the hospital's kicking in is
The state money.
I think it all is the whole 3 million, but they're only kicking part of its development and the other part was something else.
We're not building anything with $3 million.
Right. This was the 3 million is the feasibility stuff so that they can hopefully get federal grants.
So what's the overall cost, do they think, of all this pie?
That's part of what the 3 million is gonna answer.
Oh.
That's why the 3 million.
So is that accurate, Dave? The 3.4 million doesn't actually buy anything. It's all.
I don't know what the other half of it does.
Let me see if I can find okay. So quoting from the capital budget, 3,044,000 of the appropriation in this section is provided solely for a grant to the Klickitat County Public Hospital District Number 1 for the electrical upgrade and smart grid project at the Klickitat Valley Hospital in Goldendale, period. That's all I have in terms of understanding what the use of those federal dollars are for. And I don't even know if this 170,000 is out of that 3 million or if there's another line item somewhere, but I'm guessing it's out of the 3 million. I just don't know the details.
Of World War II ship generators that they use there and how they want to upgrade that, and they want to put in regular generators and a battery backup and all that, but then also do this hydrogen tie-in thing.
So we don't produce hydrogen in Klickitat County.
They intend to buy the hydrogen from Grant County's bringing online a hydrogen production, or maybe it's Mid-Columbia PUD's Grant PUD, one of those PUDs in the Mid-Columbia, on a hydrogen project.
And so are they gonna operate their heating system solely on hydrogen? Is that their plan, or are they gonna turn the hydrogen back into electricity?
This is like a backup system.
Like a generator, just for the generators. And then they were building, the idea was to make a giant facility that could then heat and cool the hospital connected to the school and potentially up even the pool.
I'd need to see a full prospectus before I'm gonna throw 35,000.
Yeah, I suspect I have that was I have a call I'm supposed to set up with Leslie. I'm assuming now I know what the topic is. Yeah, what that, yeah. So, like I am,
That I think it's on Thursday that I won't be able to attend. When I get to do a Zoom tour again, when he hears what I'm doing instead.
Why, because we have a workshop then?
Is that the conflict?
The workshops all month.
All month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I am sensitive to their need for an answer, but I would agree with Commissioner Anderson. I would defer a week so that we know what
Right.
we're.
No, I wasn't trying to get you to take action today.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to advise you of what's coming. That when it comes, hopefully we can move as fast as possible. If we
got
need to go in that
Okay.
direction.
Got it.
I'm not asking for money today. I was providing an update.
Thank you
Okay.
for your
Just be
clarity.
a little more clear. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you want me to be clear at the beginning,
Right.
not at the end?
Yeah, generally somebody's always asking for money. So,
Sometimes.
that's my default assumption is that. So, okay.
So a question, would the board entertain using the community development funds, given that there's potential for challenges with the $0.09? And what we can do is take what we've got in terms of a write-up so that people can see the scope of the project and touch base with the KCP EDA board members and see if there's concerns there while we're.
Yeah, because I
Wait until next-
see an issue with, like, again, we don't have to wait until the Quesapita meeting to take action because we can send it out.
Right.
So and again, I think I'm supporting using community development dollars because I think the 09, I don't think it fits, or at least a portion of it doesn't. That would be safer. And I would be in favor of, go ahead and send it out and see what people say while we're in the information gathering
stage. Yep.
Okay,
Okay, you got 3 nods.
all right, very good, thank you.
Other pending before we go to the prosecutor?
A question.
Yes.
Since this is heating and cooling, would any of this even qualify for landfill dollars?
Good question.
I don't know. I have to go back and read.
Would you look at that?
Yeah, look and see.
I'd much rather use those dollars.
Yeah.
They don't, that's almost like they're not ours.
No, they'd have to do an application.
Right. But I like, anytime I can spend the money that
Yeah.
he thinks is theirs.
Allocated, yeah, right?
Even though it's upstairs.
Just a note though, this will have more than this heating and cooling system will be addressed to.
Right.
It probably is. It's a Goldendale number.
So you're gonna have Dave do his thing and Lee do
Yeah.
her thing, and then
Yep.
we'll come back with what our answer is. Good.
Okay.
That's all I had for board panel.
Right. I went on the radio and
How'd that go?
it was only about track D and
Yep.
yeah,
I was listening.
no sheriff, no nothing. Yeah, surprising. That being said, this next month, I think my priority is going to be to try to start having some conversations with the tribe about Glenwood and water, and I had one positive conversation this past weekend with somebody who works for the tribe about just trying to make sure we open those lines of communication. And that's going to be my priority right now. Otherwise, there's no water in Glenwood. Right?
Potentially.
I would share, I'm going over to the Wapato tomorrow with
The housing authority?
yeah, with the housing, with Wishram, the superintendent of the school, and somebody from the fire district, to the housing authority and this is just the housing authority board was very graciously accepted. I sort of asked to be invited over, have us to was a follow-up to the meeting we had in Wishram with the community. And so we're going to 11 tomorrow, and it's just basically just so they can introduce themselves to each other, because it's so that the school and the fire district can have a conversation about, you know, what's going to happen with that project that's under construction now. And the housing authority they're going to feed us lunch too. So, so they wanted us to come at 11 so that afterwards the board could have lunch with us. So it was very cordial. So I'm hoping, and I have counseled the school and the fire district that this is a let's get to know each other, and it's not necessarily, it's you know, we're not going to talk about details exactly. That this is, you know, the project is under construction. It's going to be constructed. It is. They're estimated from talking with the acting executive director. They expect to have it about a year that the families will move in.
How many families, how many kids? They got any idea?
That's part of what the discussion is going to be. There's 42 houses. They have 21 or 22 are permitted and under construction right now. And so the first half would be that first phase. And so that's part of the information we're hoping to get, so that the school can plan for how many kids are going to be there.
They have the land already purchased for both phases?
Yeah. So that's what I got coming, and everything else will wait, apparently. Okay. With that, Mr. Prosecuting Attorney, did you want to have a discussion with the board? Do you want me to just call you, or?
Sure.
We'll see.
After all this time.
I know. Mr. Cannell, do you have anything that's going to be executive? How long do you think this is going to take?
I can't. I have a commitment at 3:30, so we're going to. We have some urgent business we do need to discuss, but it's going to have to wait till next week. I have a commitment at 3:30 that's going to last the rest of today. I need a verbal authorization to fill a DPA 1 position. It's grade 72. I'd like to advertise the steps 1 to 5. If I can get verbal authorization to move forward on that, I appreciate it.
Yep.
You're good. All right.
Do we need to do something Thursday for executive session, or can it wait till Tuesday?
Tuesday, I mean, we're not meeting, but we could meet virtually easily if it's urgent.
When I follow up individual, and we'll just we do need to have a discussion, but it's not noticed for Thursday, so I think we got to wait till Tuesday.
Okay.
So should we schedule you time for next Tuesday?
It's customary that there is time scheduled, but
It was scheduled.
Right. I just want to make sure we get you in before you're.
Yeah, it was scheduled today at 3. Right. So if we can.
Although there is a disclaimer at the beginning that says these times are.
Holler at us next time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We'll do our real after.
We can move things. You usually like to be the last item.
No, and I usually don't make a commitment on Tuesday afternoons, but I need to attend to another matter here shortly. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Any other business before we adjourn?
Just clarification, no workshops
No
tomorrow,
workshop
correct?
on Thursday.
And Dan, you'll just have your left meeting at 2.
Okay, we're having this in here at the little conference table. I'm
Yes,
assuming.
sir.
I will entertain a motion then.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second motion.
You have a motion, a second to adjourn the meeting. We have no workshops scheduled now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. We are adjourned. Thanks all online. See you later. All right, Gordy. And there.